We're gonna get started soon. We just need about 1 minute here. We're gonna get started soon. We just need about 1 minute here. The delay on YouTube is crazy tonight. It's always hit or miss. Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast. Today is Veterans Day, November 11th. And about 4 hours ago, Megyn Kelly released her little podcast. It's a Sirius XM show called The Megyn Kelly Show. And it involves the whole Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens drama with all these people. So recently she's had on her show Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. And she hasn't really taken too much of a stance. Recently at least. She's kind of tried to stay out of it, I believe. Even though she has had some not pro-Israel stances in the past, as she is like an America First person. But as far as this assassination drama goes, she's been covering it, but she hasn't really gotten involved with the drama. And it appears that that's what happened tonight. So that's what we're going to watch. We've never watched her show on the podcast before. So this is the first for the channel, which is kind of exciting. We'll see how it goes. I'm not very familiar with her show. I'm familiar with her, but I've only really seen clips. Before we start this episode, we need a little bit of context. So I do want us all to watch just a quick short of her episode with Ben Shapiro, because it is important, because I believe she responds to it in here at some point in the episode. So we're going to start by watching this really quickly, and then we'll watch her show.
So now, having spoken to Tucker, I actually see that interview very differently. And I did listen to the interview, and I knew what Nick Fuentes was. And I think he did show himself to be who he is. It wasn't his most vile stuff, but you got the feel for what this guy was. But I really think Tucker was talking to him, Ben, to put like a bumper on this guy. Because what Tucker was urging him the whole time was to understand that collective punishment for any one group of people is wrong. It's deeply immoral, and it's anti-Christian, which this guy is supposed to be, and reminding him of how deeply immoral that is, that you should not be looking at a group of people, whomever it is. The left does it to everyone, like whites mostly, but like this collective shame, white men in particular. And there's a group of people like Nick Fuentes that does it to groups of Jews. And he was making the case throughout the whole interview in the way that Tucker does. He's not like you or me. He's not like pointed and cross-examining.
That is not true.
It's not really defending
That's
Nick
fundamentally
Fuentes,
untrue.
No.
Ask Senator Ted Cruz whether that is true.
He gave it to Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz is a politician.
That's yeah. Well, hold up. So only politicians get cross-examined?
You don't. Well, look.
Truly?
It depends on the person.
Tucker would never cross-examine a person who is not a politician. That's his rule.
Tucker has excoriated public figures who purport to speak for us and represent us for many years. Nick Fuentes is a podcaster civilian.
Okay, I just have a question. We all in our industry are constantly excoriating people who are in our industry. It happens all the time, every single day.
Okay.
Okay. Again,
but we're talking about his interviews.
We can agree to disagree on your interpretation of what Tucker was doing there. I think everybody should watch and determine for themselves what they think Tucker was doing in that interview. And
We have watched this on the channel, so if you want to see the Tucker Carlson interview of Nick Fuentes, you can go ahead and watch it.
I urge you to watch it back to back with the Ted Cruz interview to determine whether you think that was an aggressive Tucker Carlson interview, and you can judge for
I
yourself.
didn't say it was aggressive.
My opinion.
I didn't say it was aggressive, and I don't think he would say it was aggressive.
And I
think
think
his point was, this guy, first of all, he's become a behemoth, sadly. He's got 5 million viewers on Rumble. He's got 1 million followers on X.
I agree.
This is all before Tucker Carlson, and he was platformed hate that verb, but he was platformed by Patrick Bet-David. And he went
All right, so I think we've seen enough of the short. Basically, she's not defending Nick Fuentes, but she is defending Tucker Carlson. And Ben Shapiro there is just saying, well, he pressed Ted Cruz way harder than he pressed Nick Fuentes. But if you've seen both those interviews, you just know that it's because Ted Cruz was very disrespectful. And like Megyn Kelly says, he's a politician. He should be able to defend his stances if he represents, the people. That's enough context, though. I think there is one other clip from this episode that is relevant before we watch her episode today, but I don't have it pulled up, so it's all good. We're going to get going.
Kelly, welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. We are back live in the Red Studio today, taking a little break in between tour stops. Our last and final tour stop starts next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we're done with the tour. And I just want to say
never fully
again,
watched
thanks
a
to
show
all of
before.
you so much who are showing up and making it incredibly special. Yesterday was 2 months to the day since Charlie Kirk was murdered in a public execution, and leftist protesters chose to mark the day by showing up at a Turning Point event to taunt conservatives with pure hatred. Last night marked the end of what was supposed to be Charlie's tour across college campuses, an event he absolutely loved and for which he prepared hours and hours and hours on end prior to their beginning. As you know, after he was murdered, conservatives like Michael Knowles, Tucker Carlson, I think most of us who went out there had been previously booked to do them with Charlie. And others perhaps not, but I don't know. It's just one of the things that made it so profound, I guess, to be out there on the stage, because it was supposed to be a joint event. It was supposed to be something that we did together. And he's only been gone 2 months. It's hard to believe how much has changed in those 2 months. It's hard to believe just how disgustingly vile the left has gotten. Honestly, like I don't know. I knew they were not great. Not sure I would have anticipated such large swaths of the left celebrating and even reveling in his assassination. There's something deeply wrong with these people. Charlie chose the University of California, Berkeley, birthplace of the campus free speech movement, though it hasn't been living up to that for quite some time, to be his last stop. Independent journalist Andy No reporting the protests were organized by the violent Antifa group, quote, by any means necessary. That's what they call themselves, but it's Antifa. They showed up with signs like this one. Kirk said death penalties should be public, quick, and televised. Congrats, bro.
It's so funny because, Kirk said that and didn't hide his face. And it's like, come on, debate it. Like, go out in public, take your little mask off and debate this Kirk quote.
Fucking douchebags. Another sign held by two protesters with their faces covered and one wearing a keffiyeh scarf reads, drown fascism in the sea of resistance. And in front of them on the sidewalk, a pile of soiled freedom shirts like the one Charlie was wearing when he was killed.
That's nasty.
Another protester, again, with her face covered in a keffiyeh, holding a sign that reads, Charlie Kirk berated black people, rest in piss. What kind of an idiot is that? What the fuck is that? He berated black people. He berated no one. He had spirited on-campus debates with blacks, whites, Latinos, Asians, you name it, you absolute Nimrod. She clearly knows nothing about Charlie, his beliefs, or his practices. Just another ignorant, stupid Ivy League college student. Protesters also chanting, fuck your dead.
I will say, to protest, you're totally allowed to do that. This is similar to what Charlie did. They're just expressing how they feel. They're allowed to do that. But this protest does get violent. And so I'm sure she's going to talk about it.
And there's a person pointing to his neck or hers, ambiguous, over and over on the left side, understanding that he's caught on camera. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how institutions will give people like this degrees, like if this guy's a student. And that's probably why he's covering his face, because he's not willing to go out and publicly express these views. He has to kind of put a mask on to do it. And it just goes to show, a lot of people do feel that way. Like they're happy that someone died.
They're I mean, how many of these do we have to see to understand that they're reveling in Charlie's death? They want more people killed on the right. It's, of course, the same gesture that Chicago elementary school teacher Lucy Martinez made at a recent No Kings protest. And just a reminder, she's apparently still employed by the school, and they're perfectly fine by that.
That's crazy.
They love Lucy Martinez. Great. Great. Per the news outlet The Berkeley Scanner, several protesters passing by police officers, telling the officers to kill themselves or others, saying, "You have a gun, use it wisely." 5 individuals were arrested in relation to various altercations with police and protesters. One fight broke out after a Kirk supporter selling Freedom T-shirts was attacked and wound up bleeding heavily from his face. Watch this.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, as someone on the right, you can't show up to like campus and like try to like publicly like even just speak. Like someone will try to take that right away from you. You'll get attacked, and that's the issue. People on the left, you don't get violent like that. Don't try to like kick people off your campus or attack them. You need to debate them, and you need to have better arguments, better ideas. And when you put a mask on and like attack someone, you just make your cause look worse.
Fuck you, fascists! Fuck you, fascists! Fuck you, fascists! Fuck you, fascists!
So I will say this: unless she has other angles, it didn't show who started the fight.
Break it up! Break it up! Break it up! Break it up! Break it up!
Oh, here we
Poor
go.
guy.
Here we
He's
go.
getting the living shit kicked out of him by these lunatics. Police were not sure what started it. Some said the Kirk support.
Yeah, let's see if we could watch that again. Okay. It looks like someone grabbed like maybe one of his t-shirts or something. And then he tried to get it back, and it does look like the guy that grabbed his shit starts hitting him. So I will say it does look like the aggressor here was on the left. And I mean, it is, you know, it's terrible to see. You see this happen a lot.
Charlie Kirk type branded merch, and everyone around him was aggressive. My first thought in watching it was they sound like they're about to get violent. Like, it did not sound like your average college campus douche.
Yeah, I mean, you saw how they reacted
sounded
when Charlie
angry,
Kirk died.
and
Like, they
sounded
promote violence.
like they were getting ready to hurt him. And sure enough, they did. It's amazing. However, there was a silver lining, the most amazing part of all, which was that every single person who stood in that line to support Charlie Kirk never left. The taunting, the cursing, the screaming, the death threats, they were undeterred. We saw explosions. They were lighting off some sort of pipe bombs or flares. No one left.
I'm sure there was no pipe bombs at the event.
Crowd inside. Now, Stu Burguiere. He's host of Stu Does America on Blaze TV. Don't miss a moment. I've been talking a lot about Riverbend Ranch lately because I love their 35% tablet 6 to perfect black code Megyn for promo. Like any human would look at this and say, why don't we just let them do their thing? You know, like the right is very much still in mourning over Charlie. I don't know what these people are. What is that? Is that a human being? Like the one who taunts the Freedom shirt holder, beating the shit out of people?
These people, these leftists, like people that go to these protests, and that the ones that tend to get violent, they see like people on the right as like Nazis. And it's so that's how they like rationalize it. They're like, well, yeah, if I saw like a real German Nazi run around the streets, I would attack them. And they've like fell for the mind virus, as people would say, so hard that they actually think certain people like Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump are Nazis. So that's kind of how they justify the aggression. It's a big problem.
One's lighting off flares or Molotov cocktails. I don't know what it was, but there was a clear like explosion that we saw on camera. What is that? I don't understand that species.
It's a great question. I don't think I understand it either. I don't know that I have met people like that.
I'm not
They seem
familiar
to
with this
exist.
guy.
You know, when I talk to people who are, you know, more left than I am, which is, you know, the vast majority of the American populace, most of them seem pretty rational and normal and maybe have some bad ideas. But I can talk to them. I can have a drink with them. I can eat dinner with them and deal with them.
Right. He's pretty much saying the same thing we were just saying. Once it gets to the point where like they won't even debate you, and even to like the extreme point where they'll attack you, that's when it's a problem.
There is a massive change that is happening with at least I want to say a large chunk because that's what it feels like, but at least it's a decent sized chunk of the left that has almost militarized. You know, it feels like you see that around the pro-Palestinian protests. You see it around the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk situation. You saw it after George Floyd. It's become much, much worse over time. And I think it's been accelerated by, you know, the way that we deal with each other. You know, I mean, young people in the last 20 years their time socializing.
I have a hot take here. I think it's been accelerated by like the destruction of mainstream or legacy media. Like it's hard to find a reliable news source that you can fully trust. And people just get the wrong idea because they get stuck in like these echo chambers. Like new media nowadays is like Twitter or even Reddit, and it's like you can end up in those places to where you're only hearing like very extremist takes of like your party. And it could help to like make these people like turn extremists, or even you've heard people call for like the FBI to be planting informants in like Discord servers rather than like militia groups, because that's where like the real issues are happening nowadays. So I think that contributes a lot to it.
With other human beings is down between 50 and 70%. And apparently when they are socializing, things get worse. People start bleeding all over the place. You know, there's the stat that I'm always amazed by is that young women today that are pet owners spend more time actively engaged with their cats than they do other human beings. And
nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if that's just an awful part of this. Like it's a symptom that maybe accelerates it. It certainly doesn't cause you. I mean, hanging out with your cat does not make you attack other people. But I do think there's a disconnect that's brewing between younger people and just the people around them. They don't see them as humans. They don't have any respect for them at all. I mean, I think it was really, really easy, a super low bar to clear, to feel sadness for the family of Charlie Kirk, for the people that supported him, even if you hate their ideas. I mean, I don't find that to be a challenging thing. If someone on the left is murdered, there's no moment where I'm like, gosh, I don't know, is this a good thing? It's never a consideration for a human being that can operate within a civilization. And that aspect of whatever bonds kept us together that we used to call a civilization has deteriorated to a massive extent, and it seems to be...
He's right, but I think that's obvious. So can you talk about something else? Can you expand on this?
Getting worse. I mean, I think you show those pictures of inside of the arena. You show the pictures of people staying in line through all of this. We should not ignore all the positives that have happened after Charlie's passing. You know, people going back to church and doing incredible things. I think people investigating faith again, and I that stuff has all happened. But
yeah, and you could, depending on how, you know, your religious beliefs, you could say people going back to church is a sign that they've just lost faith in other things. So like when people, you know, start going to church again and they haven't in a while, it's mostly because like times are tough. And so when you see that figure, people are going back to church. Like if you're a regular church goer and you're very religious, you'll say that's a good thing. But if you're just an average person, you'll say it's because something's going on. Like people need that faith to really help them get through things. So it actually is a concerning figure.
It really is. It feels like these ends, the fringes, are coming apart at a pace that is unsustainable.
All I can think when I see these people doing the fake shot in the neck and rest in piss and all that.
And I want to say the people that hate on Charlie for saying he's a racist Nazi, I mean, are doing this like fake shot in the neck video, and they're literally pissing on like the Charlie's Freedom shirts, like all those things that they've been doing, or like attacking people that are on the right. All those things are way worse than what Charlie had ever done.
Like, all I can think is that there's a family in Phoenix, Arizona right now greatly suffering.
Yo, okay, one sec. I gotta fuck with you. Can you say something?
Hello, can you hear me? Am I good? How do I sound? Test, 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 test. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, test, hello.
You're still kind of quiet, and I got you all the way out. But
Hello,
it's good.
hello. Test,
Yeah, that's
test,
good. That's
test.
good.
Hello,
There's
hello.
a baby boy who's still sleeping in a crib. There's a toddler girl who have no understanding that they will never know their father. And there's a mother who's trying to raise them. Any mother who goes from having a two-parent intact family to losing the father will be overwhelmed with grief suddenly, losing him suddenly in particular, overwhelmed with grief and with the newfound responsibilities, which are no longer shared at all. So not only do you have to still raise these children and be ever present for them, but you have to do it while you're massively grieving, and all the responsibilities just got divided, that in large part were divided, are now all yours at your most vulnerable and weakest. Erica Kirk.
This is such a girl show. She always talks about stuff people don't want to hear about. Like, talk about the conspiracy or the drama, but she's like appealing to like the mother, and it's like, that's terrible, but that's not what I'm here for. She's showing a video.
What are you talking about? Many mothers go embrace the vice president in leather pants when their husband dies.
Oh, dude, yeah. That'll probably be a video in not this week, but maybe next week. There's a whole conspiracy there. I mean, we've covered Erica Kirk a little bit on the channel. But
Yeah, I heard the conspiracy that that's why JD Vance wants his wife to convert to Catholicism, and so that's an excuse to divorce her so she can marry Erica Kirk. I heard all that bullshit.
yeah, and
before.
like Erica Kirk could have been like a deep state plant for Charlie.
Yeah, I feel like we've already covered that.
Yeah, exactly. And the plan could have always been.
That's a lot to take in.
Like, I don't know. There's a fun conspiracy there.
They are never going to know their dad. They're never going to have Charlie Kirk to.
Like, here's my hot take. I don't think Erica Kirk was involved in the assassination, but I do think people in her like circle pushed her to maybe just get into Charlie's sight so that Charlie, like, maybe they would get married. I think she was pushed in that direction. Like a political marriage almost, like an arranged marriage, but she didn't know it. That's kind of what I was thinking. As a conspiracy. Obviously, I don't think that's true. For sure.
Walk them down the aisle, or give them the talk before they take a gal down the aisle, or see their children through their grandparents' or their father's eyes. Like, none of it. That little boy bouncing up and down in that crib, just like we've all seen our babes bounce up and down in their cribs. So she's singing.
Oh my God.
I know.
Charlie's never going to get any of those moments.
Let's get to the
I don't get
juice.
it. I'm thinking of like, who can I not stand the most on the left? Like
You right now.
who do I really loathe?
She says she's a
There's
moderate,
a
but
few
she's
media
way on the
personalities
right.
in particular. Okay, I'm not going to name them. But I would never wish anything bad to happen to them. I would never wish for them to get hurt, never mind die. And God forbid they ever got attacked.
Oh my God.
I would never celebrate it. I would shed tears for them. I would times, but like to have that to 70. Wait, can you say the stat gone down 50 to 70%?
Yeah, people
between people, like person to person, young people has gone down 50 to 70%.
Yeah, people hosting events and hanging out with each other, and just face-to-face time with other human beings has dropped among young people 50 to 70%, and I believe it's over the entire American population.
Glenn Beck, no one
20%.
cares. No one cares what
And
you have to
those are-
say.
Because of this thing. It's this thing.
I care a little bit. I mean, that could contribute to it. People just aren't interacting with other people. Like, you take a bus or something, everyone's on their phone, looking down. They used, people used to talk to each other a little more.
Yeah.
This thing did it.
Mhm.
The iPhone.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but that was caused by Steve Jobs. It's back to this debate we've all been having ever since 2007 when it hit. Has this thing done more harm than good, or the opposite? I have my map on my phone. It makes driving so much easier for people who don't have directions like me. It can't follow directions. You can get a photograph of your children in the bed, in the crib.
Proven stereotypes, right, Megyn Kelly?
Email, text, work from home. We no longer see people. We no longer talk to each other. We're shooting each other up. We're celebrating each other's murders. I'm sorry, but I think it's directly related.
I will say I think the majority of people aren't celebrating murder.
Related to that rectangle we all walk around with in our pocket.
I completely agree that this is a massive component of it. I mean,
I think one thing these two old people are too old to understand is when you post something controversial online, that's how you get views. Because the algorithms pick up things based on interaction. That's one of the factors. So if you say something very controversial, it'll get shared more than if you just say a generic RIP Charlie Kirk message. No one's going to do anything about that. No one cares.
That's a proven study, is that people, if they see a cute dog, they're going to be like, oh, cute dog, and then someone likes or agrees with them, they're more likely to not come back and engage from a positive experience. But if you give them a negative experience or have them fight against something that is one of their core beliefs, then there's more likely of a chance that they'll maintain commenting with someone who disagrees with them. Yeah. So that's why on Facebook and other social media, you're normally shown things that you disagree with so that you engage with them.
Yeah, it's all about the engagement. That's why people that have controversial takes, you'll see them more often online, in the comments and stuff, because more people will engage with it.
Read the Jonathan Haidt book that came out recently. The Anxious Mind, I believe it's called. I mean, the stats in there are just shocking. As a parent who has, kids in this age, which they are constantly begging for phones and want them all the time and want their own phone. And, I'm out of, I look around even at my school, which is a conservative leaning school. Most kids, my kids are 14 and 12. Most of them have phones, and our kids don't at this point, but it's a hard thing to hold out for parents. And if you think about how badly adults are handling this, how much society has changed and how human interaction has changed among adults, you think about what this must be doing to our kids. I mean, you look at the suicide rates and all of these other things, not to mention just brain rot that is happening. That's a massive component. And I think we could look at this and say both conservatives and liberals are both pretty guilty of just giving our lives over to these devices without really any thought, hours and hours and hours a day. And I think there is effect on both sides. But I do think that the effect is really exaggerated on the left. And partially I think it's because the lack of...
It goes back to what I've been saying. The left doesn't know how to properly debate because they have the worst arguments. And so what happens is they end up in these echo chambers online.
Personal connection, the not seeing each other as human works together with the idea of collectivism, unfortunately, into a really bad recipe. Because when you think...
And with one other thing, the loss of faith.
And the loss of faith is massive among that. When you lose that personal connection, the personal foundation to a higher power, and then you combine that with collectivism, which is basically, largely an idea of seeing people as members of groups rather than individuals, right? That concept, which I also believe leads to racism and anti-Semitism and so many other terrible things, because even when you see that stuff on the right, it's always in a collectivist mindset. You're seeing these people as just this, hey, there's this giant glob of people and they're responsible for it, rather than seeing them as individuals who you would be sad for when their children lose their father. Like, when you just see him as this, and you see Charlie as this guy who was leading this movement toward things that I don't like in politics, it's a lot easier to go out and, do these terrible things and mock his death and all of this when you're not seeing him as an individual.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
This is a person who, maybe he did like lower taxes than you. maybe he did like lower regulation levels than you want, and maybe his healthcare subsidy level was different than yours. These aren't things that should make you cheer his death.
Obviously,
that is a
we
low hurdle
know.
to clear, and one I believe for a really long time we were able to clear, at least as long as I've been alive. Over the past few years, maybe accelerated by COVID, certainly accelerated by technology.
You could even say accelerated. I mean, it's not what he's saying. It's not like that in other countries. In other countries, political assassinations can be very commonplace. And what have we been doing the last decade or so is we've been letting in a lot of these people from other countries. So that could be a contributing factor.
And just wild, left-wing ideologies, we crossed a line that it doesn't seem like we're able to make those distinctions anymore. We're not able to just say, hey, like, I don't like that. I don't like any of your ideas, but gosh, that's terrible what happened to you. There were some on the left that were able to hit that hurdle, but far too few.
Well, I do think your points about collectivism and then the point about faith explain what's happening. Explain why this is happening on the left, but not the right. Because the right wing has young kids. The right wing has...
It does happen on the right. I would say just not as much recently.
College-age kids. The right wing has 18 to 24-year-olds right now who are not doing this. So why? Like, why not? And I do think, it's not to say they've never had a shooter that age and so on.
You could say it's because they have better role models.
In general, right-wing families are connected with faith. I mean, honestly, it's one of the reasons why the whole Tyler Robinson mystery is so bizarre. Because while he was a leftist, he came from a right-wing family. And I don't know what role faith played in their life. Just because you're right wing doesn't necessarily mean you're
bizarre.
Faith.
How bizarre.
I think that
How bizarre.
the more you remove faith from your life, the more you replace it with false gods like wokeism, which is extremely damaging. It's basically the same thing as catching, not that it's contagious, but I mean as getting anorexia, like a disease that will eat you away from the inside. You do it to yourself. You kill yourself. Day by day by day by choice.
She hates on the
by
lips.
believing in things that aren't true.
Anorexia had your mother last night.
That's the collectivism. And then, if you fill up that space with a belief in God, in Jesus.
They just have like religious boomer takes.
Jesus, in being redeemed from sin, and also just belonging to a community, then you don't have the need to turn to Antifa to work out your
Antifa. Who is this 4chan?
Every time I see one of these kids out there, and we always get inevitably the follow-up piece on how they're all rich, how they all have endless supply cards at Starbucks, and they have expensive laptops. Here's some of the fire that we saw
They
last
have
night
expensive laptops.
Don't know exactly what that is.
Subscription-based
exactly
services.
Peaceful protest. They're all
Look
rich.
peaceful
they're all
to me.
privileged. 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you, the parents are paying no attention to them. They're really just ornaments, like you'd see on a fancy car hood. And so they need this. They need to go out there and do something crazy to make themselves feel like they matter. I mean, if we're really talking this through, it comes down to a basic parenting fucking fail, right? Like, stay in touch with
Megyn
your
Kelly.
kid.
Whoa, that's
Have
not
family
very
dinners.
Yeah,
Christian.
Go to church.
She has a good argument there, but I think she just went straight for it. There is been divorce rates are a lot higher. A lot of women are having children that aren't married. There is a parenting problem, but you don't just go straight to it's all the fucking parents' fault.
On top of his well-being, including and arguably especially when he goes away to college. And by the way, the Tyler Robinson situation, if he goes away to college and winds up living with a trans furry who's allegedly famous for growing mold
That's so scary.
in plastic Tupperware containers throughout the apartment and hoarding to the place where he looks like he's living in a dumpster
Allegedly.
or an actual landfill, maybe get more involved in checking on his wellness. I mean, truly, the well-being of society depends on it.
It
I mean, he was 22 or whatever. He was an adult.
really does. You need those foundations.
Yeah, were you an
This is
adult
not,
at 22?
No, not at all.
nuclear,
But I'm not saying. I
chemistry
just.
level
I don't really think you can blame the parents for his actions.
No,
sort of
probably not.
discovery. This is basic human nature. You do need those authority figures. And like, as a parent, like I have, maybe
Oh,
this
here we
is
go,
just
Glenn
completely
Beck
selfish.
telling
I
it
don't want
like
to
it
jinx
is.
myself, but like, I think there are.
Do you know this guy?
Glenn Beck?
Yeah.
I know of Glenn Beck, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard him before or seen him.
Okay.
Times a lot of parents do these things, and the world takes their kids and does God knows what with them. It's not always, even if you're trying your best, sometimes you lose your kids. And the fact that so often we're turning them over to, in some cases, literally the Chinese Communist Party with TikTok and these things, you should assume this is going to happen a lot more often.
So yeah, TikTok got bought out by, one of the guys on the board of the company that bought it is the number one private donor to the IDF. So it just went from the CCP mind controlling your children to, I don't know, pro-Israel people. Is that better or worse?
To be more and more diligent about this.
If you can
you
deal with propaganda like a normal person,
backgrounds and kids that are
China's probably
spoiled
better.
and have have these amazing lives by any historical representation. And I think too that part of this is like human beings kind of need struggle. We will often search it out, even when it's kind of silly to do so. And I think you see a lot of these kids at these colleges that have what all impressions are great lives, right? Like everything they've ever needed, never struggled for food, never struggled for the wants and needs, live in nice houses and nice communities, not threatened by the horrible inner cities that left-wing mayors have created over the years.
I agree with that.
They're not dealing with that. That's not who they are. Those aren't the people that are voting for this nonsense most of the time. It's people who are outside of that world. And, I think in some ways we've smartly gone after and tried to solve a lot of the basic concerns of our lives. If you think about the George Floyd era for a second, when the left is going into these town squares and they're tearing down these statues of, Confederates and all of these things, and they're acting so oppressed by them. And now they're in a situation where what they believe they're oppressed by are statues. But at one point in our history, those statues were real people. And some of them were terrible people. And some of them did terrible things. And we used to have to deal with the actual dictators, not the statues of the dictators. And the fact that we see that as our main struggle today, in some ways speaks well of our society, that we've been able to take away a lot of those threats, right? But I do think that, especially people without, as you pointed out, Megyn, that connection to faith, the connection to something real. And
I don't know about faith.
They search, and they search blindly.
I do think when you start tearing down statues of people that lived generations before you, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. Although I'm not going to say Christopher Columbus was a great guy or anything like that, but that's not going to solve any issues, tearing down statues.
In this awful wilderness we've created for them, and that is not a formula that leads to good things.
No, it's not. And these rich families that think parenting is accomplished by lavishing their children with expensive gifts or trips. She's
really shitting on the parents.
Are creating the next gen of losers.
My God.
Absolute losers. I mean, and we're all going to have to deal with it. I mean, it really does concern me. And that brings me, of course, to Jimmy Kimmel and the absurd clip that's circulating now. The other night we played, and it aired on this program, the soundbite of his wife, who apparently is just as crazy as he is, lamenting that she still has Trump supporting relatives. And notwithstanding the fact that she begged them and gave them 10 reasons not to vote for Trump, they still voted for Trump. And she feels like they voted
I can give you 10 reasons to vote for Trump.
Something's wrong when your so-called comedian husband is in your mind on the ballot. But all right. There was more to that interview. I don't even know why they're doing this. But they're both of them are on what appears to be a Zoom call with a bunch of people in the frame. And listen to this. Now, the subject of poor Jimmy's 5 nights off 5 nights paid off, where he got multi millions, just
Multi-millions.
contract. But yeah, he's a free speech warrior. How that went over, the trauma in their family when speaking.
What do you think about him saying that the Charlie Kirk shooter was on the right for sure? Do you think he actually believed that, or the guy that wrote his script just told him to say it? Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, I think just like Bill Maher, Jimmy Kimmel, all of the Jimmys, none of them write their own material. Like all of the material's done by some like 20-year-old dude. So it's most likely, that's why a lot of the times you see a lot of these talking points or these sketches like on SNL, is because it's all these like 22, 25-year-old like liberal people who are trying to be the,
yeah, they're
next
just
big thing on SNL.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's people, like straight out of college, like the girl who ran that Bud Light ad campaign that just don't get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
With their daughter, who is 11. They also have a son who's 8. Listen here.
And Jimmy let them know. He said, our show has
That's his wife?
been suspended. And our daughter immediately burst into tears. And she said, I'll sell my Labubu's. And we told her, yeah, you should. No, we did not. We told her, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to sell Labubu's. And our son asked if the president had done this. And we looked at each other, and we didn't quite know how to answer that question.
I think I said yes.
We did. We actually both said yes at the exact same time. We said yes. He did.
That was awkward. That whole little interact. That
Like
little
him
clip.
Chose not to tell your children that the reason he got suspended is because he mocked and wrongfully blamed a beloved conservative's death on conservatives. I can see why you didn't think that was appropriate to share with your 11-year-old, I guess. Much easier to just blame Donald Trump.
Megyn Kelly, the OG
personal
white
responsibility
woman,
there,
making up
Stu.
arguments
It's
in her head,
all
winning
about
all of
Trump, not what Jimmy
Oh, yeah,
said.
she never
And then the
loses.
cherry on top of the sundae, the referencing of the Labubu's, these little dolls that can be as cheap as $25 or can be $850
Yeah, I bought one for $35. It's $90 right now. It's going up.
a pop, and the little girl thinks they're so poor she's going to have to sell hers off. Sure.
Yeah,
Jen.
sure.
Yeah, I'm living
Look
in
at their
this
studio.
incredible mansion
There's-
somewhere in Hollywood and
Yeah,
living
right, exactly.
the
Thank you
life
for going
that
back.
everyone
First good
would
point you made.
aspire to financially.
Right.
And yet,
He has decent takes. It's just he doesn't really go that deep. Megyn Kelly she's just stuck in her own mom world, but she's great though.
And let me tell you something. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me just say one thing quickly. By 11, your kids know exactly where you are on the earning scale. They may not know your salary, but they know if you have money or if you're struggling for money. That whole thing sounds like a fucking made-up lie to me. Sorry.
Yeah, it does.
seem like one of those stories that actually.
Yeah, especially because at first the wife said, I don't know how he responded, and then Jimmy Kimmel was like, oh yeah, we said yes, and then the wife was like, oh yeah, actually we both said yes. Like, yeah, they definitely were exaggerating or might have made up that whole story for sure.
Really didn't happen, and also, like, how would it happen? Why on earth would your children assume the president of the United States was getting you suspended? How would they come up with that idea? They come up with that idea because you're telling them how evil he is all the time, right? Like, probably every conversation around your house is focused around this one guy and the things you claim he's doing to you.
Honestly, after hearing this discussion and watching that clip, I believe that Jimmy Kimmel really believes that the shooter was on the right. Like, he fell for it. I kind of think that now. I wasn't sure until I saw that clip.
Which, of course, largely are nonsense anyway. I mean, Trump does occasionally dive into some Hollywood issues. He does enjoy to do that every once in a while. But I mean, it's insane, right? Like, these things don't just happen. It's like when you see these parents who are like, gosh, my daughter goes to bed every night and she's so concerned about global warming and how is she going to live? Like, that doesn't come from
My 6-year-old thinks they're trans. It's shit like that.
the kid. The kid doesn't come up with that on their own.
No.
You know, and no child actually goes to bed thinking about a 0.9 degrees Celsius temperature rise over a globe in a century. And there's no child who actually fears that.
Let them
That
cook.
is given
Goddamn.
to the kid by the parent. And, you know, like, as well as all those labubu's, this is something that the parents are handing down and giving to these kids and giving them a perception of how the world works, which is they are somehow this in the mansion with the labubu's, somehow the victim of this society. It's insane when you really think about it that way.
Because we all
It is,
have
yeah.
an $850 doll for our child. There's zero chance that they went for the $25 Labubu. And by the way,
I actually disagree because you buy them at MSRP when they're like in production and they just go up over time. So she just doesn't know anything about the boo-boos. She's uneducated.
Who is this 4chan?
The
who is it?
4chance. It's
Who
all
is it?
about them.
yet another tell that she's lying is the part
Did she say
where
that
she says,
or something?
I don't even remember what we said in response. And Jimmy's like, we said yes. And she's like, we said yes.
At the same
Yeah,
time.
Not a hesitation.
right. They were just making that
She
up.
knew, like, she tried to, like, she wasn't going to say that
I
they
don't
didn't
think that
take
was her that
personal
said that.
responsibility because, like, at the last second, she had the light bulb go off that this would not make them look good. Jimmy was too dumb to realize this was not going to make them look good. Let's watch it again. Now with our analysis baked in, let's watch it one more time.
Run it
Stop
back.
looking.
And Jimmy
No, that was
let
some
them know.
CNN
He said
anchor.
our show is, my show has been suspended, and our daughter immediately burst into tears.
Real quick, I'm pissed at CNN for not releasing the full Candace Owens interview with the opioid lady, blonde girl with glasses.
And she
Ellie
said,
something, I think.
I'll sell my Labubu's. And we told her, yeah, you should. No, we did not. We told her,
Yeah, bro,
no,
look
you
at
don't
their
need to do
setup.
that. You don't need to sell Labubu's.
They're set for
And then our
life.
son asked if the president had done this. And we looked at each other and we didn't quite know how to answer that question.
I think I said yes.
We did.
Yeah.
We
And
actually
We
so
did.
then
said
we
yes at the
decided
exact
to
same
shake
time.
all responsibility.
we said yes.
or
Oh, you
accountability.
remember
And
now.
now,
Teach our children that
Right?
it's always someone
I think
else's
it was
fault.
I said yes.
Yep,
yes, you did.
we
You
didn't do
both-
anything
we both
wrong.
said
We're
yes, we both
perfect.
did. Like, she's a liar. That's my opinion. And
Yeah.
by the way, we didn't even
see
talk
how
about
big
the
our
host,
house is?
the
How
other
could we be
host on this
wrong?
podcast, which I guess is called We Can Do Hard Things. Their horror that she might have to sell her Labubus. They're all like, like literally everyone, one girl touches her head with both hands like, the
Not the
Labubus.
boo-boos. Yeah,
No.
that's funny.
The
Are you
horror
making
the
fun
poor
of
Kimmels
yourself,
have had to
Megyn
go
Kelly?
through, Stu.
Oh, I think you found my favorite part of the clip, which is the host, their hands gestures throughout it. Like the entire time you're telling the story, one has her hand over her heart, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Oh.
and then it's the hand to the face, and they're like, I can't believe what an adorable moment, but what a sad moment. Now, none of these people seem to be, they wouldn't have the same sadness from the Jimmy Kimmel Labubu child possibly losing their Labubus as they would to that first clip you showed from the crib. Like that's the
Yeah.
clip that should make you feel that way, not a millionaire losing their $850 doll. That shouldn't make
And-
you feel that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
The poor child.
And by the way, that's what Jimmy was joking about. That's really what he was joking about. He was making light of what happened to Charlie by being like, "Ha, MAGA's, scrambling to make it seem like it wasn't their own." That includes the whole thing, and he diminished the whole tragedy with that flippant, erroneous, defamatory comment. We all know the guy confessed to his family that it was Tyler Robinson, okay? That's who killed Charlie Kirk. It wasn't one of MAGA's own. The guy was a leftist, according to his own parents, not to mention what he wrote on the bullets and the way he'd been living his life and all that stuff. He won't take personal responsibility for misstating the facts, which was obviously intentional, and now wants us to feel sorry for.
So yeah, she thinks it was intentional that Jimmy Kimmel did that, but I really am not sure if he might actually believe it. It might not be intentional on his part. I really am
just
not
don't think-
sure.
All these millionaires just do not care. They could give two shits less. They just don't care. They so it's like he was just some scriptwriter, some 25-year-old liberal dude just like, I'm gonna fucking own the conservatives with this one, and he's this dude gets paid millions of dollars, so he's just like, okay, I'll read my script.
Yeah, it was like
That's
an
exactly what
Anchorman
happened.
moment. Like if it's on the script, he's just gonna read it. Like it could be like that.
I don't think that guy does anything. I mean, even look, the way that they were talking and discussing on the podcast, the wife was trying to be very clandestine about whether or not that they said like it's the president's fault your dad doesn't have a job, and Jimmy Kimmel himself's like, no, yeah, I think I told him that, and then she immediately changes her tune and her tone and is like, yeah, you did say that, and it's like, these
She
people.
said that we both said it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
she's just making shit up.
Right, and Jimmy Kimmel just looks too dumb to even understand that
That's
he
the
should or
thing,
should not
yeah.
be saying that
I'm
right
not
now.
sure if he
Yeah.
knows what's going on.
No, I don't think he does.
For him, there's no other reason for her to tell that story, Stu.
No, it's of course they're trying to get sympathy for themselves, even though again, and like what he said was obviously untrue and something that is believed widely by the left to this day. They still believe that this was a MAGA person. We have,
I got banned
Jimmy
from
Kimmel who
Reddit
said
for
it. It was
clarifying
widely
that.
spread around left-wing media. We have America's dumbest congressman, Eric Swalwell, said something like that. We have tons of people who
Tight race, but I agree.
Yeah, I think he. Look, there's definitely a tight race there. We could bring in Jasmine Crockett. There's a bunch, but I would say I think he's America's dumbest congressman. But this was a widespread thing. This is something that is still believed when you look at polls. They don't. I mean, who would want to blame your own side for something so terrible? But internalize that. It is your own side. It was your own side that did this. And they did it because of the same reasons you're standing out there beating the crap out of a guy trying to sell T-shirts. It's the same instinct. And that anger.
I would also argue they did it like Tyler Robinson was turned extremist for the exact like same things that Jimmy Kimmel like did. So like he's just not able to admit when like someone on the left like did something wrong, whether it be him or his writers that are like pushing these like liberal agendas. It turns people like Tyler Robinson extremist. There's no solid mainstream media source where they can get like a real narrative, and when that happens, people start living in their own world.
Well, I will also say that part of like PR
brutality.
101 is to never apologize, never admit wrongdoing or anything like that.
Yeah, that's not good.
You usually want to be like, we understand that this statement may have been insensitive, and we are committed to making sure everything we do in the future is more of X. People, if you look at people putting out apologies, any popular person, it's exactly like what I just said. It's never about actually saying sorry. You never admit fault. You just commit to doing better and say that this was like unbecoming. That's how people do it, and that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, and there you go. Yeah, if you can never really admit you did anything
who
wrong,
would want to blame your own side?
it's like media distortion. It's kind of a good word for it.
For something so terrible, but internalize that. It is your own side. It was your own side that did this, and they did it because of the same reasons you're standing out there beating the crap out of a guy trying to sell T-shirts. It's the same instinct, and that anger and just brutality toward your fellow human being is disgusting, and especially when it's placed in this bizarre context where they're the good guys. Like, oh gosh, they're so upset at Chuck Schumer today because he didn't have healthcare subsidies because they're so concerned about people's health. Are you? It certainly doesn't feel that way when I watch you mocking someone's death.
It's really horrific. I don't really know how to reach out to these people at all. I do want to
She's not really trying to reach out to them, in my opinion.
ask you something. It's that kind of interesting that I saw online. I think it might have been Chris Rufo. I can't remember. It was a conservative saying, just given everything that's happened since Charlie died, it's more evident to him than ever that Charlie was the glue holding the conservative movement together, and that it's become so, I don't know, fractious and acrimonious in the last 2 months because of Charlie not being there to hold it together. I don't agree with that, actually. I don't think Charlie was the glue that held the movement together. I think he was great at forming alliances. And, of course, the Turning Point events were events that most of us got invited to and went to. no matter where we stood on various issues, including Israel. But I don't think what's come out, since he died and the infighting, especially around the issue of Israel, was something Charlie could have prevented. The thing with Israel has been coming to a boil for a while now because of the war. And I just think it's actually kind of, I don't know, something about the comment bothered me because it's putting too much on Charlie. First of all, he was amazing and he was extremely talented, but he was not some sort of weird Godfather, Christ-like man who was able.
I don't know if I agree, because I think if Charlie Kirk didn't die, people wouldn't be up in arms over pro-Israel people or bad actors trying to control the narrative. I feel like it was because he died. That was kind of the breaking point. And if he didn't die, it just would have been business as usual. But maybe something else would have happened that would trigger the same thing. I don't know.
To achieve the impossible, which is keep people fighting about Israel and a very controversial war. How do you see it?
It's a
All right, before he answers, I see it as he died. Before he died, he was saying some not so pro-Israel things, but then after he died, a lot of pro-Israel people Benjamin Netanyahu were saying, oh no, Charlie, he died super pro-Israel and really respected Judeo-Christian values. He sent me a letter. We're best friends. I invited him to come over and hang out. And that's what set it off. People are like, no. Charlie Kirk is a real, if you're on the right at least, he's a great patriot. Don't try to change the narrative of what he was saying after he died. That was kind of the breaking point.
It's a
But
great
you do have to
question.
also preface this that Charlie Kirk was very pro-Israel.
He
and
was. He always was until maybe, I don't know, just a couple months before he died.
I mean, even in his his religious beliefs, he was in Christianity, the Bible says the Jews come first, so
Yep.
I love all the Jewish people because they're God's chosen people. So he had a very deep-seated
He always
view of
did.
the
And that's
Jewish people.
that kind of goes into that whole conspiracy. Was that all that just being pushed to him so that, he was a popular political figure on the right, and if you're someone that is pro-Israel, you want to keep him pro-Israel because it helps your cause. And then he was kind of trying to break apart from that, and that just adds to the whole conspiracy.
When you're talking about Israel, I mean, yes, the war is certainly part of that, but these are ancient hatreds, right? These things go back. Many of the theories being tossed around these days have been around for a very long time, long before the Gaza war. These are things that have been bubbling around, the country and the world, unfortunately, for a very long time. I think that, I agree with you. Charlie was an incredible guy, and I think he would even be a bit uncomfortable with getting that much credit. I mean, I think he was a guy who really tried hard to maintain alliances and be the type of person who was connecting people rather than breaking others apart. We have this battle, I think, going on the right now between coalition builders and line holders, and which one should you be? Which one should you be? And I think it's interesting to think about that conceptually for all of us, because I have thought of that. I've watched a lot of this go along on the right, and as I've thought about it a lot, I think the answer to a healthy movement is you need both. You need people Charlie was really, really good at reaching across to people who were even on the fringes of conservatism and trying to bring them in all the time, trying to hug them, trying to say, hey, here's where we agree. Come talk to us about these parts that you don't agree on, but here's where we agree. And he was a great coalition builder, but even inside of himself was also a line holder on certain things. And you look at what how he dealt with, the Nick Fuenteses of the world. He was not. He was angry at some of them when they would come and ask questions. He would be.
Yeah, I would say he didn't deal with the Nick Fuenteses of the world very well, because the whole point of Turning Point is to go and debate people. And to debate people, you need to be able to let people that don't have the same opinion as you come on stage and debate you, and he wouldn't debate Nick Fuentes or other followers that brought up Israel in the past. Like, he would kick them out. So that is a bad thing. But it looked like he was coming around to it.
Well, and that's also because Turning Point USA received a lot of money from Israel.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
He lost donors just for having like Tucker Carlson on. So if he had Nick Fuentes on, it would have been even worse. And he would kick Nick Fuentes out of the events because he knew that all he would do is just ask about Israel.
And forceful against them. And so I think we all have to kind of find where we are on that spectrum. We can't just say every time somebody disagrees with us, we toss them from the movement. I mean, I support Israel, and I support what they did largely in the war there, especially after October 7th. But like, I know a lot of people who are much more skeptical and concerned about what they did there. They're not terrible people. They're good people. And they're really trying to find what the right answer is for something like that. There are people who aren't trying to find the right answer. There are people who just disagree with everything that a Jew does. That is a real thing in our world. We've all documented it throughout history, and it still exists today. It exists across the spectrum, and I don't want any part of it. But like, criticism of Israel's government is, of course, on the table and totally okay. We shouldn't hold a line to keep those people out of your movement.
It is okay, but for a while there, it is true that Charlie Kirk wasn't even entertaining those kind of questions.
You have to be able to have those conversations and have deep conversations about that, because these are complicated issues. When you move on to just try to toss everybody that disagrees, that's bad. It's also, though, I think important to look at what your movement is. Is it something that is accepting people for their beliefs and their faith and all of that, or is it something that's just going to just take out groups and blame, like the left does, come up with a group that's responsible for everything and just point fingers and say that group is evil?
Glenn Beck
Usually
right
it's
now
us.
is trying to say that people on the right who question Israel are like people on the left. That's what he basically just said right there.
Yeah, it's a bad argument too, because he's like, he's like, you can't try to say like one action identifies like the whole group, but then he's going around saying like lots of people in Israel don't support the war in Gaza, and he's like totally leaving out that there are a lot of people that in Israel that want to kill like all Palestinians, like people actually feel like that.
Well, then he wants to also bring up, people have been doing it for hundreds of years. I don't know if I don't know if I heard him mention something, but he says hundreds of years, and it's like, well, I mean, if you go back to when Palestine invited Jews to Palestine to live there, the Jews were literally like killing the Palestinians for welcoming there. So I mean, pointing out those things, especially because these two countries or these two factions are now at war, and going through the history of what could have caused this, is actually very important. The only issue is that it platforms ideas that people might not know, or that people would see as unfavorable to Israel, which is exactly why Charlie Kirk wouldn't do it at first.
Yeah, well, that, and because if he did do it, he would lose a bunch of donors, lose a bunch of funding, and the issue though is it like compromises him, because he wants to be the guy that goes out and debates people, the free speech guy, but when you don't entertain those questions, it discredits everything you're trying to do. And so I think
the whole thing I said about the Israel or Jewish people in Palestine is just an example of a bunch of different things that you could talk about, right? Nick Fuentes is going to focus more about the current Israeli involvement inside of our own government, and how we've given them billions of dollars in the past. I don't know how long.
I think that is the best way to focus on it. But yeah,
well, that's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying that you can't have these conversations regardless of what they are if they're questioning Israel, and that's what Glenn Beck is saying.
Yeah.
In their particular arrangement. I don't want to do that either. I mean, again, I bring it back to the point I made before, which is collectivism. Racism is collectivism. Anti-Semitism is.
He was just doing the collectivism thing, like
Right.
collectivism. You're putting these people into groups and thinking of them as groups. And sometimes I think, conservative or
Again,
liberal, that
I'm
stuff
not-
gets kind of
I'm
messy.
not
Sometimes I think
trying
about it as
to
just
agree or disagree with some of these people, but a lot of conservative commentators had some choice things to say about George Floyd, right? And I don't care about George Floyd at all. I'm not pearl clutching, but it's just like a lot of these times it's always cry, cry, cry when something happens to our side, and do the same thing that we do to you when it's something that happens to your side.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
especially people like Glenn Beck.
Well, yeah, I mean, anyone who has a show, I mean, you got to get views, you got to appeal to your
Yep,
audience.
it's true.
So
It's
it's
true.
like you can't always, trust these kind of people 100%. Maybe like 60 or 80% of what they're saying is like good takes, and then the rest is just for the clicks.
Yeah, that's true.
collectivist and individualist. And if you think of people as individuals, you're much more likely to come to normal human interactions with them, and the left has completely lost that.
Yeah, no, that was ironically the point that Tucker was trying to make to Nick Fuentes in their, much reviewed interview.
Tucker made the
about
point
how
better
wrong
than
collectivism
Glenn
is.
Beck.
And why would you be saying that to a guy
There's a reason why
known
Tucker
first and foremost as an
Carlson's Tucker Carlson
anti-Semite,
and Glenn Beck
unless
is
you were
Glenn
against what
Beck.
he was
Yep.
doing? I mean, that's what he was trying to say to him. And I know people think, oh, well, Tucker doesn't like Jews, or Tucker, he's an anti-Semite. I mean, I've listened to his show. I do listen to Tucker's show. I just don't hear that. I hear somebody who's not a fan of Israel or Netanyahu at all.
Right. No one
and
cares
believes
about
some of the
Jewish
things
people.
that
Everyone
the
just cares
Palestinian
about
protesters
Zionists.
believe
That's
about
what
Israel,
the issue
which is
is.
fine.
The
I mean,
deep state of Israel.
Who would
Pretty
argue that
much.
Israel has conducted a perfect war and hasn't been guilty of just a disturbing number of civilian deaths, even though they take extraordinary measures versus most other world fighters to prevent them? They're not perfect, and there have been, and there's of course plenty of room to criticize them. They just seem to have an incredibly thin skin. Their most ardent supporters who told us for 2 years we could criticize them if we wanted to. Then when
What do you think about the argument that the war in Gaza isn't a genocide? It's just a highly urban area. And since everyone has a smartphone, it's just been more televised. And so it's actually just a pretty par for the course. What do you think about that? Because I heard that argument, and I don't think it's a bad argument.
I think that sure, that absolutely makes sense, right? But then when you have Israel killing the most journalists out of like the next 10 conflicts combined in the last like 50 years,
Yeah.
or killing all of the the aid people and the medical and
That's
food
true.
aid
Yeah, they've been
people,
starving the
and
Gaza.
when you give evacuation orders and then you bomb the evacuation routes, all of that is indicative of an ethnic cleansing, right? And so the whole point of the ethnic cleansing means pushing, like removing a people from their land, right? And so that is, when, like I said, when you do those things and commit those kind of war crimes, that's different than just collateral damage in an urban area with a high
Yeah,
population
but
count.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm not like woke on all the other conflicts for the past couple hundred years. Like that might have happened a lot. I'm not trying to defend, not the journalist part, and not like also like
Bibi Netanyahu himself compared what they've been doing to Gaza to the bombings of Dresden back in World War II, when the United States and I think the British,
oh yeah, that was terrible as well.
bombed like the city of Dresden, was just civilian bombing, right? And so
Right.
it's definitely happened before, right? But
yeah, it has.
technically we're not at war, right? They are. But I mean, I don't know. When you kill more journalists than however many conflicts combined in the last however long, and you intentionally kill aid people who give you their coordinates and what they're doing and where they're doing it, and then when you tell people that you evacuate like through the south through this passage, and then people do it and then you bomb them, like
Yeah, I mean, there's so many more examples of stuff like
right,
that.
that's the big difference. Then there's a hideout building in a dense populated area, and it's millions of people in this place. That's different than what I just said. Those are two different things.
No, that's true. Yeah, and Gaza's basically was just a concentration camp. Like it was fenced in completely. Like They're really just stuck there.
Some of us started to. The rules changed. But that's what he was trying to say to Nick Fuentes, that collectivism is bad and it's anti-Christian and it's evil.
I like that take. I think
And
that's a good take.
I think an incredibly important
good
point.
take,
You know,
'cause it's
I
the
think
truth.
like there's this, all of this is happening, and there is a value to talking this stuff out and finding where your lines are and what you're going to accept and what you're not. And that's something that human beings need to do, and the conservative movement needs to do generally. You see the motivation, though, for I think a lot of the talking, a lot of the conversation around this is not necessarily coming from people, I think, that have the best interest of the conservative movement at heart. And you know, I sometimes I think about it in the way of, I think about it as the I get asked about these questions sometimes, and I think about it as the same face that Sydney Sweeney made when she's being asked about how she wants to comment on.
If you want to check out Sydney Sweeney's controversial ad campaign, we covered it on the channel.
You know, her Gene
I think she's
commercial,
talking-
and it's just like
he's talking
this.
about the GQ interview.
Oh, I
many
haven't seen
people
that yet.
Are coming at this
It's
with
nothing-
no
it's a nothing
interest in
burger.
making the conservative movement better or having it thrive.
And I just want to,
I mean,
I just want to respond to a comment real quick saying that if there was infighting on the left, Megyn Kelly would be all over it. For sure, I totally want to agree with that. But that's the difference between the parties. All the people on the left kind of fall in line, and whoever holds the power, they just kind of follow those policies. On the right, you get people like Charlie Kirk that really will debate things. So this whole thing would just never happen on the left. I mean, you're not seeing people on the left that are going against these Zionists on the left because they're in both parties.
what I
Having
normally
people
see
have-
on the left is people just trying to take the moral high ground above people. I don't think they try to out left people. Honestly, I don't feel like they fight their ideas, like saying that this is a bad idea. They say like this is a bad idea because it doesn't do this. Or
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't go
different.
far enough.
They don't really have infighting like this.
They have like cannibalizing.
Yeah,
That's,
and
that's-
yeah,
that's- I don't know how else to explain it.
it's collectivism, basically. It's a good way to explain it.
have more individual rights. It's coming from this idea of how do we destroy that movement? How do we take the fractures that of course exist in every movement and separate them and make everything worse? And I don't want to make that sound like I want to accept every lunatic that comes on and says they're to the right. I keep hearing this argument of like, oh gosh, no enemies to the right. Well, the people that were in that conversation aren't to my right. I don't know who's right there too. I don't know what National Socialist is to my right. None of them. It's got nothing. Those ideas have literally nothing to do with what I believe. Those are the Nazi Party wanted to control every single aspect of the German citizen's life. That has nothing to do with my vision of what I want out of government. But you have to understand the motivation of what the left wants out of this. And what they want out of this is to destroy everything that Charlie was trying to do. They want to destroy everything that the president and other conservatives are trying to do. They want the worst for us. And so giving into, this idea that we have to embrace their vision of whatever, intramural disputes we wind up having on the right, I think isn't healthy for the future of the movement. I talk to people all the time I disagree with.
I mean, if you look at the Tea Party movement and then what happened with Trump, is that right? The right is not afraid to fight with other people on the right. And the Democrats or the blue people, it's like you have to suck it up and vote your lesser of two evils every time.
Yeah, you can't step out of line on the left. And a good example of this is when Pam Bondi said she was going to try to prosecute people for hate speech after it was recently, I forget exactly what it was after. But the people on the right freaked out and said, hey, like, you got to protect freedom of speech. You can't do that.
Yeah, I think it was in reaction to some.
It was Jimmy Kimmel, I think. It might have been.
Yeah, I don't know. It was something stupid, but it's like, no, dude, that's not how it works.
But yeah,
I
like
mean,
on the right, if you fuck up, they will call you out.
Yep.
They won't stand behind you at all.
There's a lot of them. I work here at the Blaze. There's all sorts of views at the Blaze that I don't agree with. I've been able to have conversations with everybody here. I disagree with them on a lot of things sometimes. They disagree with me on a lot of things. I think that's healthy. I think that's a thing that we should want on the right. I just feel like when you look at the motivations of the outsiders trying to exploit that, we should be really sensitive to watch out for what their motivations are.
Mm-hmm. I have more to say on this Charlie front, but I'll pick it up on the backside of the break because I want to show you something
I don't
that
understand
I've
what
never
Glenn
shown
Beck
anybody
is saying
before.
there. Wasn't
A
that
piece
like
of tape
literally all of Trump's
that
campaign?
I have.
Yeah,
and this
the
Rufo
right
comment
wing.
got me
it
thinking
was
about
kind
it,
of a
but
waste of
damn it.
time. We should have skipped that.
You mentioned Sydney Sweeney, so I do want to mention this in the
Sydney
couple minutes we have here.
Sweeney.
She is under attack right now, a new attack.
Yeah, what did she do?
Because she's starring in a new movie. It's about
so GQ
a
is like
boxer.
no one cares about it anymore, and so in order to maintain relevancy, they have to put out like their super like left-leaning interviewers getting dunked on by whoever they're interviewing, and so you just have like some left like interviewer frame a question like, do you want to like apologize or like do you want to
Oh, is that what it was?
explain? Yeah,
I did hear about that, where she like doubled down on her ad campaign and said she liked it or something.
She didn't even double down though. That's the thing. She took the coward's way out. She's like, if there's something that needs to be said, or like if I have something that needs to be said, I'll say it, or something like that.
Oh, okay, she didn't even answer.
Like, right.
We might cover that on the channel.
I mean, her just saying no would have been better. Like it would have been a Chad meme if she just said no. Like,
Yeah, that would have been epic.
And it's about this boxer named Christy Martin, who was extremely successful and I guess gay, or at least turned gay or was lesbian at some point. I don't know the story, but Sydney Sweeney is playing her in a movie, and it opened this past weekend, and apparently it did not do well at all. And now she's getting attacked by this actress named Ruby Rose, who stars in Orange is the New Black, who took to Threads. That's of course the left-wing X, kind of like Blue Sky, on Monday evening to attack Sydney Sweeney for playing esteemed boxer and domestic abuse survivor Christy Martin. Again, they point out in this article that this is on the Daily Mail that there was a lackluster reception, including one of the lowest ever domestic openings for a wide release. It has set tongues wagging, leading to Ruby Rose's explosive rant toward Republican Sydney. And we do believe she's a Republican. Here's what she says. She says, the original Christy Martin script was incredible, life-changing. I was attached to play Cherry, who I think that's another name for Christy Martin, but in any event, everyone had experience with the core material. Most of us were actually gay. It's part of why I stayed.
Okay, so it looks like Sydney Sweeney played a gay girl, and Sydney Sweeney is a Republican, so she's not allowed to play a gay person. That's what this Ruby Rose drama is about.
In acting, losing roles happens all the time. She's trying to act like she's above. She's not bitter against Sydney for taking the role, but
well, all I'll say is you look at a picture of Ruby Rose and you look at a picture of Sydney Sweeney. It's obvious why Sydney Sweeney is more famous.
Here it comes. For her PR to talk about.
Yeah, it does. Your political views. She is, and your political views don't matter when you're getting roles. Your attractiveness, that matters more.
I mean, when getting roles, nothing like that even matters. Most of these actors that you even see are like the dumbest fucking people. Like, and like just not when they're not acting and they're in interviews or commentaries or something.
Oh, real quick, did you know Mom Donnie was a rapper? He has rap songs.
Zoran Orb? No, but I'm about to pull some up.
Hell yeah, dude. I was listening to him the other day. They're not even bad. They're so funny.
And saying Sydney Sweeney did it for the people. None of the people want to see someone who hates them, meaning gays, parading around pretending to be us. You're a cretin and you ruined the film.
That's what actors do. They pretend to be people. You dumb bitch.
Period. Christy
I think that's why they're so awkward in like
so this, I believe, is the obvious,
they don't know
clear
how to be
price. That's
and also, exactly. Yeah, when you grow up, as an actor, you're never really. You're always trying to play like a different role, and also if you make it and you're famous, you're living in a whole different world. You're not living in the real world.
Sydney Sweeney has had to pay for And they said it, being a registered Republican. That's it. That's her sin. It's not the ad, the jeans ad. It's not the answer to that reporter last week. It is the fact that they now know she's a Republican, that she has to be smeared as a failure and totally behind the disappointing open of this film. And also, by the way, for kicks, quote, hates gays, for which there is zero evidence. I'm sure that
If she hated gays, she would never play a gay role, right? I mean, come on.
it's based in this woman's demented head on the fact that
to
she's a
admit,
registered Republican. Again, like
these Mandami rap
Hell
videos
yeah,
are
dude.
good.
Yeah, if you haven't heard about it, Mom Dami has like a rap SoundCloud or whatever. Look it up. It's certified dank.
this is such a low below the belt hit, Stu.
Yeah, it's also incredibly unlikely that she. Why would she take the movie of Christy Martin if she hated gays? It makes no sense.
She
I
won
mean,
it.
when you look at the plot of the movie.
question.
Here's a woman who was able to go from
Yeah, she is attractive. Look at that. Goddamn.
nothing to a very successful career throughout while dealing with all sorts of
Big
terrible
face
abuse. Like this is
person,
a
her face just
left-wing
isn't it?
type
I think her face is good.
of plot line. You
Definitely not her best feature.
think normally
Obviously.
they would want to talk
I
about
don't
and
get it.
promote, right? Like this is
She has big boobs.
a Hollywood
is that
story.
it?
That's it.
Very typical of
And
their
she,
approach.
she's been promoting the film alongside Christy Martin. Like
Yeah.
they've been making all these appearances together. So clearly Christy does not think Sydney Sweeney hates gays.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like we know nothing about we know literally nothing about Sydney Sweeney's views. The fact that she's Republican, I mean, a Hollywood Republican, oftentimes is nothing that I would consider a conservative. I mean, this is
You just got to think about it for 2 seconds. Like, rich people are often Republicans because of the whole less taxes thing. So it's like Sydney Sweeney is rich and famous. It's obvious she's going to be a Republican.
It's true.
She might be a conservative. I have no idea. She really hasn't said anything about it, which is what I loved about her interview, right? Like it wasn't a. Look, I love when people agree with me, but that's not what she was doing. She's just saying, like, look, I'll talk about this on my own timeline. Like, you're not going to goad me into this. That's not what's going to happen. And you look at her career. First of all, she's actually really good. She's a good actress. But you think about Euphoria. She was in the freaking Handmaid's Tale. Like the only literary reference left-wing people know. She was in that show as well. She's not made some right-wing career. She's tried to do all these things, and I think she's been good in them. And they're just beating her up because she has an R near her name. It's complete insanity.
Yeah, there were reports that she is a registered Republican, but she hasn't done anything to show that other than she did not back down after she did the jeans ad to the left-wing shaming, which everyone should take a lesson. So shame on this actor for hurling
Yeah, I
a
like
bigot
how they
charge at her.
like how they
Totally
brought it to
baseless.
like a
More was
place
due
of
right after this.
like white supremacy when like the ad is like just trying to
Cooking Thanksgiving is
to be
high
like
stakes.
the
I feel
Good
like
hot
jeans.
girl
fried
has
turkey can
good
ruin it all.
genes, like
And
as
wears
in like
jeans.
That's why I love.
well, like good
Chef.
genes is in like her family's biological makeup and like DNA, right? And so it's like good genes because she's attractive. Like
Yeah.
thought it was just like a sexual objectification or whatever, like we
It-
always use
it was.
in advertisements, right?
And she's
then the
wearing
leftists
jeans.
Took it to a white supremacy thing.
To a eugenics Nazi thing.
Yeah.
Like, Sydney Sweeney, of all people? I mean, come on.
Like they like to point out sexual objectification every other time, but this time
Not that
let's
time.
make it
No
a
more
white
onions,
nationalist
no more
thing.
dried out turkey.
One of those ads, she's literally like unbuttoning, like undressing. And it's like, yes, it's about her attractiveness.
Just perfectly cooked meals every time. And it works for steaks, chicken, fish, whatever you're cooking. You will wonder, kitchen code. Like, I think people who didn't know him may be misunderstanding Charlie. Like, Charlie, he was important. He was hugely important to the conservative movement, but he didn't do it by discouraging debate or trying to tell.
Unless you were going to ask him about Israel when he was pro-Israel. So he did do that.
One faction they couldn't or shouldn't say something, or not saber rattling on something that was like a sacred cow of the administration's. He didn't always do it, but he wanted those discussions to happen. I don't think Charlie would be upset about the debate that's generally happening between, say, Tucker and Ben Shapiro right now in Israel. He would not like
think
how
so
nasty
either.
it's getting. You know, he definitely would not support calls to have Tucker, you know, people to stop watching Tucker. Ben's not asking for him to be deplatformed, but clearly he wants him cut out of polite conservative movement circles. He would not be in favor of that. He knew what Tucker was saying, including about Israel, and continued to invite him to Turning Point events. And so I just wanted to tell this story because I think people are misunderstanding. Like, Charlie was all for really robust discussions of very tough issues, including Israel and beyond. It's just he wouldn't necessarily lead them because he did have donors, and he also was very close with the administration. And so I just wanted to say two things. Number one, there was a Turning Point event last July, and many of us were there, and we all saw Charlie. And that was an appearance at which I spent all my time talking about Epstein. It was right after the whole debacle with Pam Bondi promising she's got the file on her desk and she's going to reveal it, and then releasing that 2-page memo saying, oh, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing to talk about. I don't know what you're referring to with those Fox News hits. You know, they memory hold them. And the FBI got swooped up into it, and it was very controversial. And that is what my appearance was. Not a speech, it was a Q&A. And that is what Charlie wanted to talk about. And backstage, he made very clear to me that he wanted to focus in on Pam Bondi and encouraged me to really go for her. Now, I didn't need Charlie's direction because I'd been going for her on my show. So it's not like this was orchestrated. He had been listening to my show, and he was basically like, please say all of that right here. And that's fine. I'm like, you're leading the Q&A. Let's do this, which is what happened. So Charlie was not at all averse to seeing Pam Bondi take a hit. He was just too polite to be the one personally to do it himself. So, but he knew that the administration wasn't going to like that, and he was not shy about that. He thought that was an important issue. And who was really hot on that issue in particular? Well, Republicans, yes, and young Republicans too, who smelled a rat and just felt like, do we have the same thing with this administration as we've had with other administrations, red or blue, where, you know, important people get protected and only people with no connections are left to fry? So anyway, that was one example. And the second example also relates partially to Epstein and partially to Israel and involves Tucker. So 2 weeks after Charlie died, Tucker had me on a live broadcast he did of his own show. It was on a Wednesday night, and it was about free speech. It was about a lot of things, and definitely touched on Charlie too. And he and I had a long talk that night. It was actually a great show. Here is Tucker describing his discussion behind the scenes with Charlie. Now, before I play this, Tucker would come under withering criticism for what he said at the Turning Point event. He did criticize Israel. He also suggested he thought that Epstein was a Mossad spy, something I speculated could be true in my own remarks too. I mean, I had no idea, and I made that clear, but to me at the time, it made sense. We've since had...
It looks to be true. We've covered it on the channel. So Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was an ex-Mossad informative, I believe, something like that. And it goes pretty deep. That's basically how that's allegedly how Epstein got all his money.
Many discussions about whether it does make sense. Alan Dershowitz, who represented Epstein, has said Epstein denied that to him directly, and Alan would have used that if he could have to get him off. Ehud Barak has said it wasn't true, and he used to run the IDF in addition to Israel, but he was also extremely close with Epstein. So take it for what it's worth. Okay. Tucker got criticized by the pro-Israel crowd for his remarks at the Turning Point event. Charlie also had threats from donors thereafter saying, if you don't get rid of Tucker Carlson, like, we're done. And he...
Not even threats. He lost at least one donor. That's what he said in one of the text messages. He lost a $2 million a year donor because of it.
He had received some threats about that even before Tucker's appearance, and he said, well, I'm bringing him anyway. And that's all been documented. This is kind of water under the bridge, but I'm showing it to you for a different purpose. Tucker on that broadcast said the following about his backstage conversations with Charlie before he went out there.
Before that speech that I gave in July, we had a conversation about this backstage right before I went on. And I was fulminating and getting all red in the face like I often do, to my shame. And I was mad thinking about this and thinking about the effort by the neocons in the United States to draw us in to another forever war with Iran. It's not a defense of Iran, of course. It's merely an acknowledgement that we've done this before. This happened in Iraq, which we entered into at the behest of those same foreign policy strategists, and it didn't work. And so I was going on at some length backstage with Charlie, and I said, probably not going to talk about that. I'm not going to torture you. I know your donors hate this when I say that. And also Epstein was in the news, and it was clear to me that, Epstein's probably not like a Mossad agent or something, but Epstein clearly had contact with Israeli intelligence and American intelligence and French intelligence, but the only one you're not allowed to talk about is Israeli intelligence.
Right.
But it seemed true to me.
I think he's right about that, but that's a conspiracy.
And I had done some work on that. And I knew a bunch of people pretty close to that story. So I thought that. And I said that to Charlie. And I said, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make your donors mad. I know it's just going to be like an endless flurry of text telling you to stop or you're going to lose a bunch of funding. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it, and said, go all the way. Do it. Go all the way. I said, man, a lot of things I can talk about. I don't need to talk about that. And he said, do it.
Do it.
So I did it.
And here's the thing, Stu.
That corroborates with what Megyn Kelly was saying, where Charlie Kirk would tell them, like, hey, it's okay, you can press this issue. But apparently he wouldn't do it because he didn't want to be the one that was saying it, because it would make his donors probably more mad.
I was recently going through some old pictures to find one of me and Charlie that I knew we took at that event. And not only did I find pictures of me and Charlie, but I found a video of me, Tucker, and Charlie.
The juice.
Speaking backstage right before Tucker went out. Tucker and I were talking. Charlie came over and interrupted for just a second. And you can hear him on this tape, which I've listened to many times. It's very clear on my phone, less clear here probably as we play it. But he says to Tucker, go Max. He interrupts the conversation because he has to say to Tucker something. And what was so important to him to tell Tucker was, go Max. Here it is.
Go Max. Come on.
That's it.
It's quick.
Wow.
It just happens to be on tape. And it backs up what Tucker said. And so I just think we need to be realistic. Charlie
proof. You saw it here.
Understood
You saw
what
it
was
here.
happening to the conservative movement over
The most nonchalant, low energy conversation where he's just like, go Max. Tucker's like, okay.
Israel. He probably understood it better than any of us because he absolutely loved Israel. And yet he represented and was of young people. He was young. That was his constituency. That's where he spent all of his time. And he knew that even on the right side of the aisle, they had turned and were turning on Israel. And knowing all of that, he told Tucker to go out there and do all the things Tucker did. Go Max, he said. Now, why did he do that? Because he knew there was a faction within the conservative movement that needed a voice. They needed somebody to put their thoughts and their complaints and their objections into words in a public setting and not just cede the whole argument to the other side, which has been dominating conservative thought and media forever, the Mark Levins of the world. And so it's one of the many reasons why I really object to this attempt to otherize, snuff out the voice of Tucker Carlson. Charlie knew exactly where Tucker stood on these issues and wanted him, and I quote, to go Max. The answer to what is happening right now on the conservative half of the aisle is not to silence Tucker, to diminish him to the point where he doesn't have followers. Not that that's possible, you lunatics. Or
She's right
to
about
try
that.
to delegitimize Tucker. If anything, Tucker is a remaining voice for Charlie, whose views were changing himself. So I have nothing against Ben saying all the things he feels, or more neo-Connie people feeling that, or pro-Israel people saying all. I think they should say that, and I understand perfectly where they're coming from. But there is another reasoned, passionate point of view, and Tucker represents that. And that's what he's been doing on his show. It rubbed some people the wrong way, but it didn't rub Charlie the wrong way. In fact, he wanted more of it. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I think, we don't have.
My thoughts on it is, I think Megyn Kelly and I get to the same conclusion, but different ways. But yeah.
To speculate as to what Charlie believed about having Tucker's voice in the conversation, right? He was very clear about that in text messages late in his life that have come to light. I mean, he was upset that people didn't want him to have Tucker at Turning Point events. Knowing that he would really go for it, that it wasn't going to be milquetoast Tucker. Yes, and also, like, we know even videos of Charlie late in life talking very positively about Israel as well, being very offended by those who were infected by sort of an anti-Semitism woke virus that we know he separated from what Tucker believed, because he wouldn't have wanted Tucker at those events if he thought he was that person. I think, there's a lot, we've thrown around a lot of names here, and, a lot of them I really like, frankly, certainly probably agree with most of them on most of these things that they talk about, with some exceptions. But, I think maybe the biggest issue here is tonally, how we talk about this, because I see this stuff on my feed all the time. I follow most of the people we talked about, and a lot more that are involved in this conversation. And I wonder about the effectiveness of everybody just killing each other. Everybody hammering each other constantly.
Rhetorically.
Yes, I know. I apparently, in the world with Democratic donors, I have to make that very.
So I didn't realize this guy was going to be soft on the opposition. I thought Megyn Kelly and Glenn Beck were totally in agreement. But I've never seen this show before, so
clear. I'm talking rhetorically here. Everybody hammering each other all the time with their views, and I understand these are important and they're passionate topics. But one of the things I thought Charlie really brought to the table in this world was the ability to have these conversations respectfully, even when he had to bridge large gaps. He really was very good at that specific thing, among other things. But that conversation that he was able to bring a lot of different people who thought of themselves as conservatives into a very large, tent, if you will, to have those conversations respectfully but passionately. And I know Tucker recently, apologized for the way he framed his comments on Christian Zionists, and
he said he didn't mean it.
He said he didn't.
Which, by the way, I said that. I was interviewed by the Daily Mail right after. I said, I guarantee you he did not mean that he hates Christian Zionists, because I'm one. And I know he adores me. We're very good friends. He said to Dave Smith, I didn't mean that. Yeah. That was bullshit. I just had these neocons in my head, whatever. I can't remember who he named, but he's that's what I was thinking about. Maybe Ted Cruz he might have mentioned.
Yeah. And I think, and you could tell, there's a tonal difference of the way he talked to Ted Cruz and the way he talked to some of the other people that
Ted Cruz inferred he was an anti-Semite within the first 4 minutes of the interview. So if you watch that interview, you can see Tucker kind of turn okay.
Yeah, they were at odds.
Yeah, they don't like each other.
And it's okay.
Yeah, and it's true. If you're familiar with podcasts, it really is all about the respect and how you greet and treat someone, especially with the introductions. So if you want it to be hostile, you can make it hostile. Ted Cruz totally did that, in my opinion.
To have those conversations too. It's not like you can never be mean or never be sarcastic or never be a wise ass. I do it all the time. I'm totally guilty of breaking my own rules on this at times. But I do think that, I know people on both sides of Israel, for example. I talk to them all the time, and I don't agree with some of them. I agree with some of them, but you're able to have normal human conversations. This goes back to what we saw, you highlighted earlier with Jimmy Kimmel and his wife. If you have a view that everybody who disagrees with you on a topic is just basically subhuman, this is how these problems grow, not contract. And a lot of people I love who are super passionate on both of these sides go at each other in my feed. I'm following both of them. I like both of them, and they're just hammering each other constantly. You get nothing out of that. And I think, like, if you look at Tucker, for example, I mean, he would describe he's had different views over time. You go back, people keep pulling up these clips of him in 2002 and 2003.
He'd be the first to tell you
exactly. He has much different views. Like he was at the Cato Institute for a while. Like he was at different stages of his life. He's believed different things. It's hard for me to believe a guy like Tucker, who has really strong views, is going to be won over by people yelling at him on the internet. It may...
Oh, to the contrary.
Right. It's going to be the exact opposite. He may be won over to some of these views, some of your views, if you talk to him respectfully, maybe behind the scenes, maybe treat, you've talked to him. I doubt you agree with him on everything, Megyn, but you've had respectful conversations. He's come on our show. We've talked to him. I remember he came back after Russia and we were like, I don't know, that whole Russia thing, like the grocery stores, do you really believe that? And he explained it in a different way than he had initially phrased it. And it was, I think we had more in common, though I still would disagree with him on that topic. Like, you can have conversations with that and people can be moved. That's how you actually can win people over. If you scream at them, if you just call them names, you get nowhere with them, especially with a person like Tucker, who's been doing this his entire life. Like
Yes. It just seems to me a leftist tactic. It's a leftist tactic to try to say, like, you're out. I don't like your opinion on X, so you're out. And I'm going to push you out by labeling you this terrible thing, because that's what the left does. They label you the terrible thing, and then you're out of polite society. It's a leftist tactic. I really object to it. It's also a leftist tactic to try to make somebody say something, which is also being done to me, and all the more reason why I just won't. I've said before, like, I'm not going to go after
They
Tucker.
need to get to
I'm
the
not going
Ben
to go after Ben
Shapiro
either.
stuff.
I'm
Oh, here we
good friends
go.
with them. I'm just not doing that, so I don't care if you don't like it. Candace is not a good friend of mine. I know her a little, but we're not friends. But I'm not going to go after her for a variety of reasons. Number one, we, before this whole thing started, had a very nice, like, connection over something. It's personal, and I have no desire to stick a knife in her. And number two, the more you insist I must, the more I want to tell you to go pound sand. And now that it's like the stakes, you must, you have to. No, it's a no. Okay, BLMers, I didn't raise the fist, and I won't be saying whatever you want me to say. To your, chagrin, I might have said something. I don't know. I don't keep a daily monitor on other podcast hosts, but if they cross on my newsfeed and I find it interesting, I might comment on it. But now that you've made it the stakes of our relationship that I must, now I really won't. And you know what? I'll be fine. No, wait, but I want to get back to the Tucker thing, because it's also true that Charlie hated Nick Fuentes.
You tell
and
him
Nick
everything
Fuentes
that you're
hated
feeling,
Charlie.
Megyn Kelly.
And Charlie definitely did not want to see Nick Fuentes platformed or in any way emerging as, like, a reasonable figure in, polite society.
Right.
And I'm
Why?
sure he would not have liked the fact that Tucker interviewed him at first. He probably would have sent Tucker a text.
I almost think Charlie was close to allowing Nick Fuentes to, like, debate him. I kind of think that was about to happen. And if you want to go conspiracy land, maybe that's one of the reasons he got shot. Because he was about to, like, start asking that the kind of questions that Nick Fuentes would be asking.
Text saying, like, why? But I do believe once explained to Charlie why, he might have softened on it. And even if he didn't, he had nothing but respect for Tucker. He looked up to Tucker. He looked up to him. He was, a lot older than Charlie. He was like a mentor. Tucker was to Charlie. And it would have been, I think, something that Charlie would have come to understand and listen to. That Tucker, I think, was trying to reach this young man as maybe only Tucker can. He's got a very similar audience of young men, to say, we don't.
She's not, like, fully baked enough to really know what's going on. But I'm not trying to defend Nick Fuentes, but you're allowed to have controversial opinions, and you're allowed to say things even if they seem extremist. And he did just that and got, like, debanked, put on a no-fly list, like, fired, and, like, a bunch of other, like, someone tried to kill him, like, literally, like, a triple homicide murderer tried to kill him. Like, he got doxxed. um by like he got doxxed by like a pro-Israel nonprofit, by the way. And it's like a bunch of shit like that. I just want to point out.
Do collectivism on the right. It's evil. We don't put whole groups of people into categories and then demonize them
gaslighting
because we have a problem.
He ever does. Yeah, I think Tucker Carlson grandstands a little bit, but
Tucker? No way. What are you talking about?
Problem with one or two. It's unholy. And if you watch that interview that he did with him, I personally am convinced it was about Tucker trying to reach Fuentes, not Tucker trying to launch Fuentes in a bigger and more profound way onto the national scale. And by the way, if that's your goal, it's not helpful to say, you're an anti-Semite, you're a bigot, here are the 25 most incendiary things you've done. Right. And that's not really something Tucker ever does. He didn't do that with Andrew Tate when he had him on. He didn't do that with the president of Iran. It's just not him. I am that way.
Yeah, like people want to shit on Tucker for having Nick Fuentes on, and it's like he interviewed Putin, bro. That shit's crazy. Like Tucker's pretty well known for interviewing controversial people, so it's not a surprise he had Nick Fuentes on.
I am prosecutorial for sure, which is generally why these people won't sit with me. But he has a different style. So I just think people are totally understanding what the whole thing was about. And I think in some ways misunderstanding. They're misunderstanding what this whole thing's about. They're misunderstanding Charlie to a bit too. Anyway, spent more time on it than I expected to, but I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've seen Tucker go. I mean, Tucker does go after people sometimes. I think he was like that with Ted at some level. He went after him. He was trying to corner him into certain positions, and I like that Tucker approach at times, particularly when he does it certainly with people on the left. There's a good part of me that would have loved to have seen that approach with him going after Nick Fuentes in that way for some of those crazy reviews.
But if the goal were,
and that's what I was trying to say earlier. So if you just show up to a podcast and you're like very respectful to the host, they're usually not gonna attack you. But if you're Ted Cruz and you show up to a podcast and you accuse the host of being anti-Semitic, like you're just digging a hole for yourself. The host is gonna make the interview go badly. So if you've seen both those interviews, that's the difference there. Like Nick Fuentes showed up with like respect for Tucker and Ted Cruz didn't, and it's Tucker Carlson's show. That's what happened. So it's not like Tucker Carlson said, I'm going to go hard on Ted Cruz and not Nick Fuentes. That's not how it happened.
as I said,
right?
Would that have been useful?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Because as someone who's been in this conservative media space for a while, I know a lot of, conservative media executives who have there is among the younger conservative set, there is a group of people that and I've heard some of these executives describe it this way, of people who they were worried about they might get lost. They might go down the road of real anti-Semitism. And they are being sucked in by some of these online forces we discussed earlier. And there is an opportunity with a person like that, especially as they're developing and they're trying to find their way. We all have views that are way different than we did at 20 and 22 and 23. And the way the media has worked is it's launched a lot of these people through social media into people that have audiences of millions and millions of people who get rewarded with the stronger and more outlandish and more controversial takes that they have. I
do want to say also, like, this matters a little bit to debunk what this guy's saying, Glenn Beck. Like, the day before Charlie Kirk got assassinated, New York Times wrote a hit piece on Nick Fuentes, calling him a white nationalist. After Charlie Kirk got assassinated, like, Nick Fuentes was in everyone's mind, and they tried to blame him for the assassination for about a day. And that's the whole reason that he's, like, popular. That's why, that's why so many people learned about him. So it's not always just saying controversial shit gets you clicks, even though that is true. But there was, like, mainstream media that really worked on this, and, like, it almost did seem like a coordinated effort by, like, social media people on the left to try to blame him for the murder. So it wasn't organic, whatever it was, to get him this popular.
about antagonizing everybody when I was 20 years old. Like, I thought the funniest thing in the world whenever I could say something that would piss somebody off. Yes, I know. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. But when I was in that growing up, like, you know, and coming of age politically and as an adult, like, you struggle with that stuff. And I've known people who are in the conservative media who've looked and targeted people and said, this person's really talented and they have great views, but I'm worried about where they will go. I will try to bring them in. Now, I don't know that Fuentes is one of those guys. I think in my view, probably not one of those things that is...
That ship has sailed.
I think that one's sailed. But that may very well have been what he was trying to do. And, you know, look, I've had Tucker, Glenn and I have had him on the show many times. We've done events with Tucker. I've never sensed from him this, you know, this terrible...
So is this guy named Beck and Glenn is the other guy?
Terrible human being that I see described.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. He seems to be thoughtful, but he is in an interesting place. Like some of the stuff, you know, some of the content that he does is not. It's not. I like the Cato era Tucker maybe a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that you know, everyone gets angry and throws everybody out of the movement. It's much more effective to talk to people, as you mentioned. Probably what Charlie would have done is send a text and say, "Hey, I don't know. Are you sure about this part?" He didn't do it when Charlie, you know, was around, so we don't know. But I think that there is a line that we can kind of. We can all see, and at the very least should unite us to resist what the left is trying to do to us with all of this. These conversations are important.
We can't become them.
We don't want to become them.
I really think the left stayed out of this whole assassination drama.
Not become them.
And we don't want to give them what they want either. You know, what they want is all of us torn apart.
That's right.
And so the coalition that Charlie was trying to...
As far as I mean, like the infighting politically, but I mean, they have been like showing up to TP USA events, but I'm not really talking about that.
Legitimately build with a lot of these exact names disintegrates. That does not help us. It does not help the movement, and it doesn't help the country. It doesn't help our children. So we have to figure out a way to get through this. But having these conversations, I think, in a respectful way, like I know you've tried to do, is I think the best path forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what I want. I have so many wonderful, like, suffering Jewish friends who really are desperate themselves to see Israel out of the news.
All they got to do is just post on Twitter America First, and they're like, it's fine. they'll stay out of it.
They don't want
so many Jewish
Israel
friends that
or
are
their
tired of
religion
hearing
being
them
bandied about and discussed and debated. It's like they just want to go back to being like normal.
Oh yeah, actually, I have an example I pulled up earlier, but this is a great time to bring it up. Let me make sure you can see this. So you have pro-Israel people on Twitter that are they're taking a screenshot from Candace Owens from, what is that, September, where it says Erica knows everything, and they're trying to say Candace Owens is saying Erica is involved in the conspiracy because Candace Owens is crazy and she's investigating Erica. But that's not what this tweet is talking about. So they're taking old tweets to try to like push a made up narrative. Like there are like people that are doing this shit on Twitter. I just wanted to show that in case you like aren't on Twitter. Like there's like a coordinated effort to like attack Candace and Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and even Megyn Kelly now after this episode aired today. That's why we're streaming it.
Private people whose connection to Israel, if they have one, or whose religion isn't constantly being debated, and who aren't seeing their fellow Jewish people get murdered on American streets like we saw in Washington, D.C., not to mention the pain that the whole thing that with 10/7 and the 2 years that followed has caused them. And then people on the other side who have just...
Yeah, there was like the firebombing in Colorado, and then the two people in D.C. I think she's talking about that got shot just for being Jewish.
Just, you know, they've had it. They don't want to see any more.
It was a while ago, and then Hassan Piker, I believe, promoted it on his like live Twitch or something. That was some drama for a little bit.
By America getting sucked into foreign conflicts like we saw with Iran and so on. It's like, this thing just needs to end. It needs to end. Now, I will say one other point, since we kept going. Turning Point is having an event in December. I'll be there. Lots of us are going. And Tucker apparently asked Mark Levin to debate him at the Turning Point event, or so says Mark Levin. Mark Levin went public by reading Tucker's texts saying, he asked me to do this thing with him, and then just went off about how over his dead body would he ever share the stage.
Yeah, Mark Levin won't debate Tucker Carlson, and neither will Ben Shapiro. Well, if your views are, the better views, you should want to express them and debate them so that, they hold up in arguments. But when you decline to debate, it makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about.
With this disgusting anti-Semite and like just a vile attack on Tucker. And he's literally been...
Yeah, I mean, come on. You got to debate Tucker Carlson. You got to. You got to, if you want to shit on him, you got to debate him.
Comparing to a Nazi. And I just think this is so far beyond. We just finished like a several year period where we tried to make clear to the left that those terms are not acceptable in the public dialogue. They are too incendiary. They're going to get somebody killed, like President Trump or Charlie Kirk. With him, it was fascist. With Trump, it was both. And we should not be resurrecting terms like that to attack or undermine fellow conservatives with whom we have a disagreement.
That's a good point I didn't think about. So yeah, if you want to know who's on the right side, it's the side that's being called a Nazi in 2025. So, you've got the Republican infighting. There's one side that's calling the other Nazis, and that's like the pro-Israel people are calling like Tucker Carlson a Nazi. And then also, if it was like a left versus right thing, like after Trump won the election, you see a lot of people on the left calling like Trump a Nazi. And it seems like Trump is probably right, and Charlie Kirk, his changing views on Israel before he died were also probably right, but they all got called Nazis. So I think she's making a good point. Whoever's calling the other side a Nazi in 2025 is actually the bad person or something. It's kind of interesting.
On Israel, here's just a little of that.
Then we have on the fascistic, neo-Nazi, radical right, and by the way, I'm not talking about constitutional conservatives, not in the least. We're not on the radical right. We're right in the center. And I don't mean ideologically, I mean we're right in the center. We support the Constitution, the Declaration, the founding, and everything that was done to create this nation. How can we be right wing? Right wing of what? These people are not America first. America first isn't evil over good. America first isn't tyranny over liberty. America first isn't sounding like the Marxist, Islamist, anti-American Jew haters.
Whoa, dude.
That's not American at all. That's not America first, second, and third.
Anti-American if you're a Jew hater.
No, they're aiding and abetting.
Yeah, like this. I'm not familiar with this guy, Mark Levin, but I'm pretty sure he's like a staunch Zionist, and he's trying to say he's America first.
People who want to destroy the country. They want to destroy the country.
Crazy. That guy's crazy.
Yeah. Fascistic, neo-Nazi, radical right. And that is no way to be talking about Tucker.
And real quick, I kind of see this this America First side of the Republican Party to be not extremist right. I kind of see them to be closer with like the Democratic Socialist of America, who are like very much about, like, they say, at least, we'll see, time will tell, but like the working class, which would be like average Americans. I kind of see them as like closer on the political spectrum than like a typical Republican and Democrat. Because they have some common ground here, I think, with like this whole America First. I think like it's bipartisan a little bit.
It's too much. It's too far. It's dangerous. And honestly, like, I know Tucker and Ben both, they are both under serious threats. Like,
Serious.
To be honest, I am too.
So serious.
Like it's
Oh, so is Megyn Kelly.
This is a
Watch out.
very
She's under
volatile
very
time. I don't like to talk
serious
about it. I'm not going to talk about it. But I'm
And
just
she's not
saying,
gonna
I
talk
know
about
both
it.
of them
I'm
are
not
under
gonna talk
serious
about it,
threat. So
except
just
for what I'm
fucking
about to
put a
talk
lid
about.
on it, fucking Mark Levin. Because I guarantee
Put a
you,
lid on it.
the wrong people listen to that, and we could have another powder keg on our hands, and you don't want that. You don't want that on your conscience. Just have a debate like a man
Oh, he knows who's going to listen to it.
Like a man.
on principle. And why don't you show up at the Turning Point event and debate him?
Yeah, show
Just
up.
debate him. That would be so good for this conservative movement you claim to
Roll
love so
up.
much. You know who's at the Turning Point events? Future conservatives and current conservatives. Young
Yeah.
people. Young people. This would be a chance for you to influence somebody under the age of 70. You should show up there and debate.
That's a good point, because I think it's like people under 30 are like a very low percentage of them are like pro-Israel, like Americans under 30 or something like that. Like they lost a generation because of the war in Gaza.
Why wouldn't you debate? He's so disgusting you can't debate him. I can see not debating Nick Fuentes, to be honest. I can. But
What a pussy.
Tucker, he's so far outside the mainstream. All the Jewish friends I have in my head who text me all the time, like this is my father. They would all debate Tucker. They would love to debate Tucker. They've got their facts
Right.
ready to go all day. Why won't he do it? And why is he sounding like
can't.
a leftist shill with his rhetoric, just trying to dismiss people as like these horrible, bigoted people who you can't even stand next to them on a stage. Stu, this is not good for America First or the conservative movement, and it's manna from heaven for progressives.
Yeah. It's look, Mark is on
I kind of think progressives don't like to see that Mark Levin guy. I don't think they like him.
Blaze TV. That's where I work. We have people who are very much opposed to Mark also at Blaze TV. It is a conservative movement has a wide mind on this, and I agree with you. Like I don't, I think the debate would be great. I'd actually really like to see a debate between Mark and Tucker. I think that would be actually really interesting.
Me too.
And I agree. As I stated, I think tonally that it's not a helpful approach. I understand. There is a real concern, especially by people who have put a lot of thought into what has happened over history when it comes to this particular issue. You really want to make sure you don't go down these roads. And I as you pointed out, like I don't think there's any value in hearing Nick Fuentes' thoughts on these things. Personally, that's just my thought. I know, Ben Shapiro for I remember what year it was. He was the victim of the most attacks on his racial or anti-Semitic or religious-based attacks on the internet. He was the
attacks on the internet don't count as real attacks. Like, who cares?
Biggest victim of that for a time
From the alt-right.
Yeah, from the alt-right.
Which is the Fuentes.
Exactly. And so, like, I can see he's probably legitimately spent millions of dollars on security to protect his life and his family's life because of these threats. So I get why the passions can be really high on this. I don't know that any of that. I think a reasoned debate between people who are in the movement, it can be really helpful and doesn't escalate this stuff. That's the stuff that I think Charlie was trying to put together. I think Charlie would have loved an event where those two guys argued those things. So I think that would be a great event. Maybe Mark will change his mind. I think the problem, though, is that
maybe Ben will do it.
Maybe Ben will do it. I think that everyone's been, and I've watched, I think, in the past, debate type conversations between Ben and Tucker, where they've had conversations about capitalism and really important things.
Having just come off a week of talking to them both for hours, I don't feel so great about it. I'm going to be honest. I did my best on camera and behind the camera to try to broker something. I don't feel hopeful, but. You know what? It's December. I think it's December 19th. We're getting close to Christmas and Hanukkah. A different spirit infuses the air, and maybe they'll, Tucker's, I think, willing to do it. I mean, obviously, if he'd be across from Mark
Tucker's willing
Levin,
to do it.
I think he'd be across from Ben. I hope they do it. I hope we can just try to find a way back to each other on the right half of the aisle. The real political enemy is over there on the left, and they are the ones we need to fight. Okay, that's enough about that. An hour and a half in, that's it. But we've got to get to the BBC. It's my favorite story of the day, and we'll pick it up right after this quick break with Stu Burguiere. Don't go away.
Dude, I think tomorrow I'm gonna do the episode on there was the J6 pipe bomber that was like an informant we were talking about. But also I learned the president of the BBC had to step down at one point. I don't know if it was recent or not, because they clipped Trump's speech when he was leaving the White House after his first term, like inauguration day. Yeah, to make it look like he was like spitting violent rhetoric or whatever. And so I want to talk about that. I think that's a good episode.
Strategy together. Why? They know which lenders and credit card companies are friend with new loans and Stu, just when you thought we had the most biased, disgusting, hard left media in the world, enter the BBC with a hold my beer moment. It has come out only now, even though this sin happened a week before the presidential election here in America back in November of 2024, because a whistleblower internal to the BBC has come forward with private accusations that are now public, that he made against the BBC. It sounds like he was a member of their Standard and Practices Board, like the group that oversees basically trying to stop the BBC from getting sued and tries to make them stay neutral on their reporting. And he noticed several problems and wrote, sounds like a barn burner of a letter to them saying, you guys are a hot mess. There are a lot of things you're doing wrong. And now it's gone public and he's whistleblowing. The most severe of which was an edit they made in a, quote, documentary they were doing about the American election, in which they played this soundbite, we ran this on an AM update, of President Trump allegedly, 3 years earlier in January 2021, allegedly calling for violence at the U.S. Capitol. Watch.
We're going to walk down.
Before we watch it, I just want to say you're actually allowed to, like, everything he says here, you're actually allowed to do. You're allowed to say crazy shit, in case you're unaware.
Down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
So that's not even what happened. Trump said that fight like hell part 50 minutes later in the speech. But even if this clip was true and it didn't get clipped, what he's saying there isn't illegal.
Except that's not what he said at all. He did say the very first part that you hear in there where he says, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And then 54 minutes later, he said the part about, I'll be there with you and we fight like hell. Look at this. This is laid out in pages of the transcript. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8, 16, 24 pages later is where he said the thing about we fight like hell. They took those two bits of tape, butted them together as though it was a stream of consciousness by Donald Trump in an effort to make it look like he was calling for violence.
And NPR got defunded for doing a lot less. And it just goes to show like how crazy the UK's gone. It's very common for people to get arrested for social media posts because they say like your hate speech doesn't just hurt one person on social media, it hurts everybody that could see it. Like they're kind of going down a bad path right now, and this adds to it with that edit they made. And the BBC's not going to lose their funding. They're not, it's not the United States where the NPR fucks up and they take away their funding. The UK's not like that.
It is by any measure grossly unethical, a cardinal sin of journalism. Even a first-year reporter knows. Oh, and real quick, I think this came out after the show. The UK said, we're going to stop sharing intel with you, the US, because we're mad at you. And then so the US in response said, okay, we're going to stop sharing intel with you. And there was some other drama that's been going on. And it's like the UK and the US should be closer allies and not be fighting, in my opinion. You don't do that. If it's dicey, even if in the same answer, let's say the answer is a paragraph long and it has 5 sentences. It's dicey even to take sentence 1 and butt it with sentence 5. But you can do it if 2, 3, and 4 kind of suck and they were stumbling and it's the same point. You're not misrepresenting. But you go 24 pages later to pull the most incendiary thing he said and plop it up against the beginning to make it look like he called for violence. And you are 100% going to get sued for defamation because you have violated.
Also, fun fact, what was his name? Like something Steele, the Steele dossier authors was like an ex UK intelligence agent.
He's ex-MI6.
Yeah, he's ex-MI6. The whole, so, you know, you got potentially UK intelligence involvement in the Russiagate scandal and potentially January 6th at this point, which is interesting. That would be foreign like influence or, you know, foreign espionage. Could be considered
not really.
that.
Hillary Clinton's campaign paid Christopher Steele to go and get that information.
Right. But, you know, you could make a conspiracy out of that right there. The UK.
They did. It's called Russiagate.
Yeah, and with J6 also with the BBC editing these clips, maybe MI6 was like, do that, make it look bad. We're trying to push a narrative in the UK. Like, it's possible. That would be a fun one to look into.
Somebody's rights. And that's what's about to happen to the BBC. Trump said, I want an apology, I want a retraction, and I want a big fat check. Or I'm going to sue you for $1 billion later this week. The BBC, understanding he's got them by the balls, gave one of those things, an apology, not a retraction, not a check, but the two top officials of the BBC have voluntarily stepped down.
Oh, okay, she does talk about it.
They're both gone, which is extraordinary, by the way. They've been through some other scandals lately, too. But they're both gone now in response to all of this. So even they recognize this is a big effing deal, to quote.
This is big because the BBC, as far as I'm aware, is a propaganda arm for Israel, like the Israel government. So, you know, there could be a shakeup there if everything goes right.
Joe Biden. Your thoughts on the egregiousness of this, I don't even want to say mistake, behavior?
Yeah, I mean, far more egregious than anything that he's, I think, even sued in these American companies over. I mean, that is blatantly trying to mislead your audience into thinking he said something that he didn't say. You know.
Yeah, and you're allowed to do that, but the problem is the BBC is funded by the UK government. It's state funded, so that just means it's propaganda. That's really bad.
We've seen some of that here. You know, the thing that the find people on both sides debate was an interesting version of this, where you saw a lot of editing out of not the Nazis, not those people, but just taking these clips immediately out of the speech and claiming he said something else. You know, it's he's won these things. He keeps winning these things. He keeps winning over and over again because I think there was a little bit of a change in the media from at least when I started in it, where it was always left wing, right? Like, it was always left wing. There was always people out there who were left wing, and they were left leaning people that made left leaning decisions and promoted claims that and phrased them and framed them in ways that I didn't like. I think with Donald Trump, you can call it TDS if you want, Trump derangement syndrome, but I think more central to that, there's this idea on the left that these times are too serious. Those old rules of journalism cannot be respected anymore because these.
I think a major part in it comes down to the donors. So if you're mainstream media and you're relying on these donors, because they really are just like a dying business at this point with like things like YouTube and Twitter. A lot of their money comes in from like the advertisers, so their opinions aren't their own. It's whoever gives them the most money, and that means they could be bought.
It's too much. It's too serious. We have to break all those rules. And I think you saw that with the Hunter Biden laptop story, frankly, when they, you know, I think normally in the past it would be, they bring up Hunter Biden. They would say that, you know, it was misleading or maybe fake, and that was it. They just didn't tell anybody about it at all. They acted as if it didn't even exist. They were so focused and became the activists inside of them instead of left-wing people doing journalism with some sort of loose respect for those rules. That's is they don't have the First Amendment protections that most of our media do. I mean, I think you can argue, even with the cases where these companies in the U.S. have stepped up and said, okay, like we're going to donate to your presidential museum or whatever it is, because we don't want to go down this road, admitting that they made mistakes and did things that were wrong. They still had First Amendment protections, and I think some of them may have actually still won in court if it had gone all the way down the road, just because we really...
Yeah, that's the thing. Bernie Sanders was talking about that. He's like, the president shouldn't be suing these media companies, because even if the media companies would have won the case, they might feel intimidated that they just settle out of court anyway, and it makes Trump look like his case had more standing than it actually did because it didn't go to court. So that's a legitimate take. The counter to it is, if someone slanders you or whatever, you're allowed to sue them. Like, that's a law. So yeah, you can see it both ways.
Do prioritize free speech here. That's not the way it is in the UK. It's not the way it is in Europe. It's not the way it is in a lot of other places. They don't have those First Amendment protections with their media. So when they do things like that, they are incredibly vulnerable to very big checks. And the BBC, I think, might be writing one soon.
Yeah, they're 100% going to be writing a big check. The only question is what the number is going to be. Zero doubt in my mind about it. Here is, the Telegraph broke this story of the whistleblower. This is their associate editor at the Telegraph, Gordon Rayner, explaining the edit and their reporting. Watch.
They played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Oh, so dishonest. And they cut out, the party said...
So dishonest, says Megyn Kelly.
It's media distortion is what that is. And it's media distortion by a state-funded company, which means it's propaganda. It's government propaganda.
We do that all the time.
Yes, it's totally legal, actually. But you might get in trouble for it. But it's different in the UK. I think that, that's just how they do things.
In that part like that they chopped to butt it towards the end, where he said, and I want it to be peaceful and patriotic. We're going to go peacefully and patriotically.
Like if NPR did that, they would have got, they already got defunded, but if they were doing that stuff, again, in the United States they get defunded, but in the UK they don't.
That didn't make the cut at all. That was removed to try to make him sound like he was trying to incite, INCITE, violence. This is the same dishonest news organization that about a year ago, Stu, ran this clip, which is making another resurgence right now on X for obvious reasons.
Now, transgender woman's milk is just as good for babies as breast milk. That's according to a letter from the medical director at University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. The claim was made as part of a response against campaign groups. The trust referred to studies and the World Health Organization guidance, including one case which found what it called no observable effects in babies fed by induced lactation.
You're a disgusting fool who doesn't know what the fuck she's saying. No skepticism.
Yeah, is that a real thing? Can you? Is she saying?
Men can breastfeed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and apparently they're saying it's just as good. Interesting.
I don't know about it being just as good, but
I don't know either.
I remember hearing like an article like 15 years ago that mentioned like men could produce breast milk.
Crazy.
Allegedly.
That's very interesting to me. I don't think we'll look into it on the channel. It's not really what we do, but that's a fun one.
Whatsoever.
I wouldn't
that
recommend it.
Trans milk, meaning a man who jacks himself up on hormones such that his chest can produce something that resembles some sort of fluid, that's just as good for a baby as breast milk. So
I mean, is it or is it not? I don't know. I really don't.
I want them to pay. I want them to pay so much it hurts. And they actually bring somebody in there who understands facts and how they matter. And that doesn't appear to include anybody who's at the top of that organization currently.
No, I had missed the trans milk debate. I will
Same.
say, Megan, and you've illuminated me to that was the fact that was even a thing. I have to say I didn't even know that was
so
a thing.
disgusting.
And the
It's
fact
child
that
abuse.
and
That's what chest
I never heard about it.
feeding is by a trans person. Child abuse, infant abuse.
It's psychotic, and quite clearly not. There's no medical basis behind any of that. That's just crazy nonsense. They do deserve it. I mean, the BBC's been bad on a lot of things for a long period of time. And, this is why I would argue I don't want any state-run.
I don't agree with it, but I do think it's a thing.
Yeah, I don't know shit about it. I missed this debate as well.
I don't think there's anything positive about that. I have friends who were like, "Oh gosh, no, the BBC is good." No, they're not. They do this type of stuff all the time, and the Trump edit is really egregious because we all were there. We all remember it. We all watched the speech. We all are very familiar with the things that he said in the arguments around it, and the fact that they thought that they could get away with it. I mean, maybe it's because they thought their audience wasn't as engaged in American politics, and this is an easy way to paint the president because it probably agrees with a lot of the people watching over there. But, over here, you can't get away with that stuff, I don't think. And the media has tried for
NPR didn't.
Forever. I think it's one of the things that, because I have some sensitivity, as I think you probably do as well, Megan, when it comes to, a president of the United States going after media corporations and saying, hey, you lied about me. Because Obama would say that about us, and Biden, I'm sure, probably did say that about us. And that does concern me. But the fact that he's been able to highlight these examples that are really egregious and hold these places accountable, I think might at least give them hesitation. I don't need them to have the exact analysis I have or that you have about every issue. I kind of expect them to be off the rails and to the left. I can deal with that. I'm an adult. I can deal with that. But you can't lie to the American people constantly and be protected by these by these licenses in the way that they are. They have to be held responsible at some level. And at the very least, Trump is at least
the taxpayers are funding these lies.
Yeah, and Trump is at least putting the fear in
Right.
on this stuff. Hey, let's if you were a left-wing media executive and one of these reports was about to air, you'd say, wait a minute. I don't want to get in the middle of this. Let's make sure this is buttoned up. Why are we editing two clips that are 54 minutes apart? Just tell the truth. If you think Donald Trump did a lot of things around January 6th that were bad, just make that case with the facts. That's one you can make.
Yeah. Why do you have to lie?
Don't lie.
Yeah, totally agree. And here's something I didn't know. This is in National Review today, entitled "Troubles Mount for the British Biased Corporation." It's 103 years old to be.
Oh, dude. Oh, that's such a great thumbnail. British Biased Corporation.
BBC. It's the oldest global broadcaster. It employs 21,000 people. It recently drastically expanded its footprint into the United States through a partnership with PBS. Its website attracts more than 60 million monthly visitors from America. It is widely viewed by American viewers as impartial and authoritative. They go on to write, the British know better. And they write about, the number of examples of people who have, complained about the BBC, have objected, have stopped paying that licensure fee as part of their taxes because they just will not support it. And they go on to reference this case that we talked about a couple days ago of Martine Croxall, who corrected her BBC script, which read something about pregnant people, and changed it to, they mean women. who just got in trouble with the BBC.
I heard about
Their
that.
executive complaints unit found that she had broken the BBC's impartiality rules by explaining that pregnant people means women. You can't do that on the BBC. But you can say that chest feeding out of a man's chest is just as healthy as women's breastfeeding. And you can say that Trump called for violence and take sound bites an hour apart and butt them together. Like, that sat there for a year and they would have gotten away with it had this whistleblower not come forward. This is a disgusting, disgraceful, dishonest organization, Stu. Like, this is just as bad as anything we've seen here domestically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that example is as bad or worse than anything we've seen. I think it also highlights a very interesting thing if they're coming here into the United States, which is, I think, a real problem with American culture in that we are very susceptible to British accents. When we hear a British accent, we automatically find it credible. Anything said,
Guilty.
It's true. It just feels that way. I don't know what it is. So I'm, making
They just sound smarter.
It's true. I don't know what it is. I do think that is the when you come to perception. I mean, the American people know very little about what the coverage of the BBC is. I mean, I've watched their climate.
Yeah, if you want to know more about the UK and stuff, we've covered a little bit of it on our channel. Basically, they're letting in a lot of these immigrants from Arab countries, and they're just not like assimilating to like the UK Western culture very well. And there's been a lot of protests with that. Also, they're implementing like a digital ID. They're kind of going that authoritative route, as he just said a minute ago. And then you got the BBC as the propaganda arm that is allowed to like distort the media but doesn't get defunded, which is on like the NPR in the United States.
Coverage for years. It makes my head.
What'd you say?
Goebbels would be proud.
1 sec, I gotta turn you up. You're quiet.
Goebbels would be proud.
I don't know Goebbels.
The propaganda guy in the Nazi party.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He would be very proud. Oh, also, yeah, another fact is there's been more people arrested in the UK recently over like social media tweets than in like literally Russia. Like they lock people up for that kind of stuff.
Explode.
Horrible. Yeah.
But they just feel that's the reason why polling shows that they're credible. They sound British, and to us, like it doesn't matter who said it. Tony Blair, Dua Lipa, whoever has an English accent, we will basically believe.
Dua Lipa, I don't
Definitely
think it's
Charles
English.
C.W. Cook, but that
Yes.
one is well founded.
Mhm.
You will not go wrong.
Agreed.
Yeah, he sounds smart because he is.
Yeah, you leave her
Stu Burguiere,
alone,
you
Glenn.
as well, my friend. It was great
Leave
to
Dua
see
Lipa
you
out of
in
this.
Texas a week ago. Loved meeting your wife. Love having you on the show.
It was a lot of fun and great to see you, and thanks so much for having me on.
All right, to be continued, and we will be back tomorrow with Katya Ungar-Sargon.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping she'd talk a little more about Ben Shapiro, but that was fine. Don't know if we'll cover more Megyn Kelly episodes on the channel, but we are following this Charlie Kirk Republican infighting drama. So, whoever's show is talking about that will definitely do a stream of it. And if you want to catch up, we got a great Charlie Kirk playlist, and a lot of our live streams go over this kind of stuff. So definitely check it out.